What was the reason? Like hesitating. Like I'm not even the mother. I'm like, an appointment. Appointment. Look at all the at least they still ask. I just oh, she's down there now. Where's the nice attorney? Where? I got it. I'm sorry. Anita! Oh no, I was sitting there. They would have already been. Oh yeah. They're not supposed to. You weren't supposed How people want to do is how people do it. Well, I mean, I got the car, but her going in. You got her going in.
Oh, good morning, everybody. Are we ready for this? It's going to be an interesting day. Will Johnny end up being on the stand today or not? We'll find out, hopefully, right as they launch at around 9 o'clock. Yeah. Personally, I think the Amber Turd chant is childish and unnecessary, especially around a courtroom. Oh. Oh. So I was looking through Twitter yesterday, and I saw that. I just looked up under Spiegel, and there's all sorts of stuff that you can now find about this guy. I guess he let a patient die of suicide 3 years ago. He's got super negative reviews, and not recent, like these are old reviews. I could not find anything of him testifying anywhere else as an expert witness, as he claimed in the courtroom. The memes from this guy that are coming out are hilarious. Now, I did find a bunch of Amber Heard supporters on Twitter tweeting that he was the consummate professional in court, steady and unshakable. And I'm just going, ugh. Can everybody hear me okay over the sound of, and I do apologize if my feed kind of goes out because, well, it looks like my internet is wanting to kind of take a dump first thing this morning, but hopefully it'll right itself. Let me see. That is not at 720, 720p. What is going on?
Well, I'm here for Johnny, and I think we all are here because we don't think that what happened was not.
Yeah, as much searching as I could try, I could not find a Dr. David Spiegel anywhere in any court records. Let's see what I can find here. Yeah, he is nowhere in any court expert witness testimonies that I was able to find after a 3-hour search anywhere in South Carolina or actually anywhere outside of this trial. Now, that's not to say that he's not and that he hasn't been an expert witness somewhere else. I'm just saying it's not documented anywhere I can find, not in any court transcripts. I don't know how far back he must have gone for that, but I don't trust that guy whatsoever. I did not find him to be a professional at all. He's definitely not a paid actor. He is most definitely an actual psychologist. But if you look at his reviews for his practice, they're not good. And I don't mean just over the course of the last 24 hours. I mean over the course of the last few years. All right, here comes Amber Heard. Let's see how her lawyers take to her coming into the courtroom today. Oh, they must be watching. Yeah, look at that. They must be watching the memes and the views and stuff like that, because they've never done this. They've never stood up for Amber, given her a hug, and greeted her like Johnny's team does. That's the first time that I've ever seen that. You can't tell me that these guys aren't going back and going through and watching videotapes and looking at memes and YouTube and things like that. He has been dismissed. He's been dismissed from court. So I don't think we'll see Spiegel back. We are supposed to see, what's it? Is it Cullen? Dr. Cullen? Curry. We're supposed to see Dr. Curry again. Is going to be coming back on behalf of the prosecution, as well as Kate Moss is supposedly going to be here Wednesday. Johnny was supposed to be on the stand yesterday. We'll see if they get him on the stand today. So we'll see what happens. Well, I like how they're just like, let her dig her own grave by literally letting their witnesses ramble for the most part while they're on the stand. I cannot wait for Dr. Cullen to come back and literally just destroy that guy. Just destroy him. Also, I did a little bit more research as we had our forensic Hollywood testimony from that lady yesterday, saying that Amber was contracted $4 million for Aquaman 2. By the way, she has done her part in that, and she has been fully paid for that. So I don't know what their argument is there. She has not lost any money. Actually, it was, what was it? It was $1 million for Aquaman and $2 million for Aquaman 2, and then $4 million for the next movie, which they say that she was contracted for. That's the thing. If they bring in Johnny this morning, hey, morning, Mikey. If they bring in Johnny this morning, it's going to be detrimental to their case. If I have a feeling they're going to bypass Johnny Depp until they know that they have nobody else left, and they're just going to use up the rest of their time on him. Okay, that sucks. That sucks. And don't worry, guys. There's nothing wrong with your sound. They'll turn the sound on once the judge comes in. I think Depp's attorneys did an amazing job just destroying every expert witness that they brought in yesterday, which essentially everything that they did was speculation and hearsay. I find it interesting. I find it absolutely interesting that they wasted so much time on 3 witnesses that never firsthand saw anything. Everything that they testified on, A, you could tell they were coached, especially Dr. Spiegel. But B, they never said anything important. Nothing. It was all speculative.
All right. Good morning. All right. It's my understanding that defense is resting. Is that correct? All right. I'm not going to bring the jury out just to take them back in. So after we finish our motions and they come out, I'll let you say that. Yeah. Okay. Let's just do it that way.
Okay. Can everybody hear the courtroom?
Based
all
on
right.
them resting, you have a motion. And I did receive your memo ahead of time, so I have reviewed that. Okay. I have. Okay. Yes, sir.
I haven't received anything from them. I don't know whether they.
I think it's just gonna be oral arguments.
I haven't received anything. It's just going to be. How does the judge know that it's
Good
oral
morning,
arguments?
Your Honor, may it please the court, Ben Chu for plaintiff Johnny Depp. Mr. Depp hereby moves to strike defendant Amber Heard's counterclaims because Ms. Heard has not proven by clear and convincing evidence that Mr. Waldman made the 3 allegedly defamatory statements with actual malice.
Right, but clear and convincing is not my motion to strike standard.
Understood, Your Honor.
Okay.
We have cited the standard in our brief.
Thank you.
Moreover, Your Honor, the court should also strike defendant's claim for immunity in attorney's fees based on Virginia's anti-SLAPP statute, as she is not entitled to immunity under the statute. Because we know that the court has carefully reviewed our motion papers, I will just hit some of the salient points.
Thank you, sir.
I love it when Ben Chu comes up to do motion to strikes before every morning.
Because this is not included in our brief.
By the way, this does not count against their time.
Record evidence whatsoever that Mr. Depp even saw any of the 3 statements that Mr. Waldman made prior to being served with the counterclaims in this action, which we believe is relevant to many of the legal standards. And as Your Honor is aware, Ms. Heard had signaled for the past week that she was planning to call Mr. Depp in her case in chief. And it was our anticipation that she would try.
Right, looks like Wrath is typing up
is a gaping hole.
If you have a little bit of an echo, I'll go ahead and I'll turn it down.
To the elements of her proof. Again, there's no record evidence whatsoever. How's
that? Is the echo gone?
Ever saw any of the 3 statements about which Ms. Heard is purportedly suing him for $100 million. As Your Honor is aware, the elements of defamation are as follows. 1, publication of 2, an actionable statement with 3, the requisite intent. See Thorpe versus Sanders, 285 Virginia 476 at 2013. The requisite intent for defamation against a public figure is actual malice. That is, the statement must be made with knowledge that it was false or with reckless disregard of whether it was false or not. See Sanders v. Harris, 213 Virginia 369 at 372, a 1972 case. See also Jackson.
If anybody doesn't know what's going on right now, feel free to ask. I'll let you know exactly what they're doing.
Reckless disregard, as Your Honor is aware, quote, is not measured by whether a reasonably prudent person would have published or would have investigated before publishing, ellipsis. there must be sufficient evidence to permit the conclusion that the defendant, in fact, entertained serious doubts as to the truth of his publication, unquote. St. Amant versus Thompson, 390 U.S. Supreme Court, 727 and 731. Your Honor, the evidence shows that Ms. Heard cannot prevail on her claim because she cannot and did not establish that Mr. Waldman made the statements with actual malice. Mr. Waldman testified that he conducted extensive investigation and reasonably believed that the three statements he made were true.
Okay, so essentially what they're doing right now, every morning,
nothing.
Essentially, they're striking a lot of the arguments that were brought up over the last over yesterday
liability
from the
obviously,
records
Your Honor, we need to talk
for
about
review
direct and vicarious liability,
based on the things that he's saying.
That she has no
They
evidence
do this
of
every
direct
morning before
liability
court. For those of you that
and
don't
cannot
know, it's
prove
not
actual
they don't just
malice by
immediately
Mr.
move
Waldman
into witnesses in
when
trial.
making the three
Every
statements
morning they go
at
up
issue.
to strike records.
It is
based
undisputed
on,
that Mr. Depp did not make any of the three
information
statements
and
at
what
issue
they've been
in Ms.
trying to
Heard's
prove, such
counterclaim.
as they did so much trying to say that
in
Amber
order for
Heard's
Mr.
career
Depp to
dropped
be liable
because
for the conduct
Waldman
of
and
his-
this
one
and
of his
that,
attorneys.
and they're in there trying.
There must be
trying
some
to
showing
drop
that he
pretty much
directed,
everything they made
participated,
up,
or
said about
otherwise
Waldman.
authorized Mr. Waldman to make the statements at issue. There is no such evidence on the record that Mr. Depp directed or otherwise authorized Mr. Waldman to make the three allegedly defamatory statements at issue in the counterclaims. Indeed, there is no evidence of any communication or coordination between Mr. Depp and Mr. Waldman regarding the counterclaim statements or anything else. For this reason as well, Your Honor, Ms. Heard cannot meet her burden of proving that Mr. Waldman was acting within the scope of his employment.
Essentially, they've been claiming Mr. Waldman's, Johnny Depp's old lawyer. They've been claiming Mr. Waldman has made the statements on Twitter based on direction from Johnny Depp, and that's why they'd be significant in the case. What he's trying to tell everybody is that there's no proof whatsoever that Johnny Depp told Mr. Waldman or approved Mr. Waldman to make those statements. Therefore, they have no statute of limitations. There's no statute for them in this case because they don't pertain to Johnny Depp. They're completely
Whereas
separate
here,
issue.
there is no evidence of direct liability, Ms. Heard must rely on a theory of vicarious liability to hold Mr. Depp liable for the actions or statements, rather, of his purported agent, Mr. Waldman. Vicarious liability is by definition, quote, liability for the tort of another person, unquote. So to hold Mr. Depp liable for Mr. Waldman's statements, Ms. Heard must establish that Mr. Waldman himself committed all the elements of defamation. I know the court's familiar with this, so I'll try to run through it quickly. C. Parker versus Carillon Clinic, 296 Virginia 319 and 332, a 2018 case. Quote, vicarious liability is liability for the tort of another person. It necessarily follows that a claimant cannot make out a case for vicarious liability against an employer without first proving that the employee committed a tort within the scope of his employment. See also Roughton Pontiac Corp. Versus Alston, 236 Virginia, 152 at page 156. Which standard Ms. Heard has not met? And Your Honor, we cite a string citation to cases from other jurisdictions, which we obviously are not binding on the court, but we believe are influential. We presented those to the court for its review.
I just love Johnny Depp's team. I love Ben Chu's team. They're like the Justice League in themselves.
Evidence, or ultimately, to prove actual.
They just have their shit
by Mr.
together,
Waldman,
you know.
not Mr. Depp.
It's just a contrast of
And while it is well
professionalism
settled
between
law
one
in
team and the
Virginia,
other.
as Your Honor has pointed out last week, that an agent's knowledge can be imputed to a principal, and this is the Allen Realty Corp. Versus Holbert case, 227 Virginia 441 at 446. Ms. Heard's counsel cannot cite any case law stating that a principal's knowledge is imputed to an agent. In other words, Mr. Waldman must have made the statements knowing that they were false or with reckless disregard as to whether they were false. And Mr. Depp's knowledge cannot be imputed to him. There is no evidence in the record that Mr. Waldman knew the counterclaim statements were false. Indeed, Mr. Waldman did not even know Mr. Depp or Ms. Heard at the time of any of the alleged incidents at issue, and thus had no personal knowledge of what transpired. And this is reflected in the trial transcript that Mr. Waldman.
Essentially what he's saying is Amber's team can get fucked, and if they have a problem with Waldman's statements, they can bring him to court for defamation on
Nor
their
is
own.
there any evidence in the record that Mr. Waldman subjectively entertained any serious doubts about the falsity of the counterclaim statements. Quite the opposite. The evidence shows that
Johnny's looking good today.
Mr. Waldman had very
Said go with bright
reasonable
colors.
grounds to believe, and he did believe, and will to his dying day, that Ms. Heard's claim of abuse were patently false. Mr. Waldman testified at length about 29 witnesses he believed disproved Ms. Heard's false claims of abuse. See the transcript at page 6008 through 6012, and I won't run through all of that. But his testimony that two trained police officers, Officer Sines and Haddon, were called to the penthouse on May 21, 2016, and saw no signs of injury on Ms. Heard's face, as well as, quote, Ms. Heard's own witnesses who have testified in various forms at various times that there were no injuries to her face whatsoever.
Doodling and eating candy, you know, that narcissistic behavior.
2016, when she walked in to court with her publicist, her lawyer, her former best friend who no longer speaks with her, for a no-notice ex parte TRO. Some of the witnesses whom Mr. Waldman has cited, they include Laura DeVenier, Melanie Iglesias, who, as Your Honor recalls, was Ms. Heard's makeup artist, who decided to end any professional or personal association with Ms. Heard.
Essentially what he's doing right now is he's discrediting pretty
Samantha
much all the
McMillan,
witnesses, is saying
Vargas,
that they've
Isaac
all left
Baruch,
her side, that none of them are
Trinity
friends.
Esparza, Cornelius Harrell, Alejandro Romero, and Brandon Patterson, just to name a few. No reasonable jury could find that Mr. Waldman acted with actual malice in making the allegedly defamatory statements. He was not present for the alleged incidents. He has no personal knowledge of any of the alleged incidents. What Mr. Waldman knows is a product of the legal work he did, the sleuthing he did on behalf of Mr. Depp. Ms. Heard cannot possibly show that Mr. Waldman acted with actual malice, and her defamation claim must fail. 2, Mr. Waldman is an independent contractor, not an employee. It is axiomatic, Your Honor, that a person who hires an independent contractor is not liable for the independent contractor's
I think it's funny that we started off with 30
Sanchez
people in here and we're down to
versus Medicorp
24
Health System,
now.
270 Virginia.
We were down to
299.
I guess some people just get bored by this part.
An independent contractor is a person who is engaged to produce a specific result, but who is not subject to the control of the employer principal as to the way to bring about that result. See Atkinson versus Sachno, 261 Virginia, 378 at 284. That's a 2001 case. An outside lawyer retained by a client in connection with litigation is an independent contractor.
Thank you, Jess.
C. King versus Dalton, 895 F. Sup. 831, Eastern District of Virginia, 1995, where Judge Ellis, a legendary jurist known by all Virginia practitioners, held that, quote, a law firm attorney working with a client is nonetheless an independent contractor and is not an employee of the client corporation. In that case, the employer was a corporation, but the same logic applies when it's an individual like Mr. Depp.
Wow,
That
who
was
knows?
Mr. Waldman's role.
Who knows what was on the pink post-it?
Indeed, clients hire lawyers to obtain specific results, or to try to obtain specific
I would imagine
results.
it just says something like, I think I'm
But they do not
fucked.
control the means by which the results are accomplished. Lawyers, as Your Honor has reminded us, are subject to professional obligations to exercise independent professional judgment. We are not at the whim of our clients as much as we want to serve them. See Virginia State Bar Professional Guidelines, Rule 1:2 and 2.1. And just to quote 2.1, in representing a client, a lawyer shall exercise independent professional judgment, unquote. Mr. Waldman is, as a matter of law, an independent contractor, and Mr. Depp cannot be held responsible for any alleged tort by his attorney, particularly for statements about which he was unaware until he was sued.
These guys just let
Mr.
Amber Heard's side just.
That he has,
they give Amber's team the rope,
not an employee
and
of
they
Mr.
and
Depp.
they hang themselves with
Mr.
it every
Depp
fucking time, and they just sit back, take notes, and go, "Well, let's do some research, let's see what we can get."
W-2, and Mr. Waldman provides legal services to clients other than and in addition to Mr. Depp, and that's found
Thank you, everybody. That's
transcript
over on Twitch, supporting my Twitch right now.
21. All of that is unrebutted by Ms. Heard. Mr. Waldman's statements, the third reason for which we respectfully submit the counterclaim should be stricken, is that Mr. Waldman's statements were protected opinion. And I won't run through all of that, but very briefly, taken in their proper context, the counterclaim statements are non-actionable expressions of opinion entitled to protection under the First Amendment. See Gertz versus Robert Welchink, 418 U.S. 323 at 339. That's a 1974 case from the United States Supreme Court. See also Shacker v. Bufault, a Virginia Supreme Court case found at 290 Virginia 83, a 2015 case, noting that where, quote, all sides of the issue, as well as the rationale for the speaker's view were exposed, the assertion of deceit reasonably could be understood only as the speaker's personal conclusion, unquote, and finding an accusation of deceit to be opinion. In context, Your Honor, any reporter or any reasonable reader would understand and expect a lawyer associated with Mr. Depp, as Mr. Waldman was, to challenge Ms. Heard's version of the inherently
would you guys prefer if I was on the outside so that you could see the subtitles better?
Lawyers were quoted challenging Mr. Depp, and Your Honor will remember the context of these quotes that were in a British tabloid where Mr. Waldman's statements were buried well into an article in which both points of view were clearly expressed, and Mr. Waldman was clearly identified not as an independent expert on the U.S. Constitution, but as one of Mr. Depp's attorneys. C. Chavez, 230 Virginia 112 at page 119, quote, the most unsophisticated
you see me better as well?
Such a claim, i.e. any reader of the British tabloid.
There you go, that better?
Made by a competitor against another could only regard it as a relative statement of opinion grounded upon the speaker's obvious bias, unquote. Mr. Waldman has never did anything to hide his support and belief in Mr. Depp. Finally, Your Honor, and for the rest, ultimately, Mr. Waldman's statements reflect the existence of two competing narratives and are merely his subjective view about events that he never claims to have witnessed, and there was no doubt about that. Turning to the second part of the argument, which will be more abridged, Ms. Heard is not entitled to
Amber Heard's going to have an OnlyFans by the end of this
threshold matter.
By the end of this trial, in order to pay Johnny all the money that she's going to need to own.
01-223.2, which is, as Your Honor well knows, is the Virginia Anti-SLAPP statute amended most recently in 2019, provides in relevant part, quote, The immunity provided by this section shall not apply to any statements made with actual or constructive knowledge that they are false or with reckless disregard for whether they are false. Here, in addition
Now,
to Mr. Depp's
I want to make sure that everybody's aware.
several witnesses have testified
Ugh.
that A, they never witnessed Mr. Depp abuse Ms. Heard,
hold this down.
and B, that they observed Ms. Heard without any injuries, marks, bruising, swelling, etc., during periods when Ms. Heard claimed to have injuries,
don't worry about
marks,
that.
bruises,
I'll get that.
etc.
One second.
Such witnesses include, but are not limited to, Isaac Baruch, Kate James, Dr. David Kipper, Nurse Debbie Lloyd, Officer Sines and Haddon, Officer William Gatlin, and former U.S. Marine Starling Jenkins. Ms. Heard's request for anti-SLAPP immunity should be
There it is.
stricken,
Right.
even if there were disputed facts.
So
as to that.
you guys need to go follow the DUI guy. He's got a little plus
Anti-SLAPP
after his
immunity
name
does
on
not
Twitter.
apply.
If you want to know,
Because the
he's in the
defamatory
courtroom every
implication
morning.
of Ms. Heard's statements
And
are
he
not
is he
solely
reports back
relating to
how
a
the
matter
jury
of
is
public
reacting
concern,
to each
as
witness,
is required under the statute. As has become quite clear, Your Honor,
like
Mr.
as it's
Depp
happening.
is not suing about any of the public policy commentary made by the ACLU when it drafted the op-ed, and Ms. Heard put her name to it. What
Oh no,
he is
trust me,
suing
Elon Musk
about
wants
here
nothing to do with this
are
woman
the
anymore.
three statements that were directed at him. He has no issue with women's rights. He supports women's rights. In fact, he was the one, Your Honor, as Your Honor knows, who made that first $100,000 contribution to the ACLU, and he made it also to the CHLA.
Your Honor, at this point, I'm going to object. Mr. Chu has largely just read his brief and confined his arguments to those directed in the motion. But like we saw with the last motion to strike, he's now directing his arguments to something other than what's at issue here. And I would object because I think making an argument not to you but to the cameras, it's disrespectful to the court and to everyone's time, and it also threatens to undermine the integrity of this process and risk the jury being influenced by outside factors.
It's his argument. I'll allow him to do it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. As I was trying to say, what Mr. Depp is suing about are the
These guys can't even get a proper objection during the
It's very clear, despite the pious
during a striking
statement
motion.
that about the First Amendment, that with the testimony of Terrence Doherty and the emails that were admitted as exhibits, that the ACLU and Ms. Heard were conspiring to make it very clear that those three statements were related to Mr. Depp, because otherwise nobody had any interest.
Who is in
It's
charge of
crystal clear
subtitles?
from that. They wanted to time this thing with the release of Aquaman, which was her first film of any significance in terms of popularity, and to do that. That's very clear. So the charade that this had something to do with public policy is risible, and that is not why the anti-SLAPP protections were enacted. They were enacted to protect the rest of the article, not what Mr. Depp is suing about.
Right next.
Generally analyzed by the courts, a matter of public concern is one which relates to, quote, a matter of political, social, or other concern to the community, unquote, as opposed to a matter of only, quote, personal interest, unquote. That's Connick
Good morning,
versus
Nick.
Myers, 461 U.S. 138 at page 146. Instead, the defamatory implication at issue in each of the three statements at bar relate to the personal grievances between Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard, which does not rise to the level
I mean, he's not wrong,
of
Raph.
public concern with broader implications for society beyond the two litigants in this action any more than Mr. Waldman's statements. I mean, adding the gloss of public policy might immunize the statements that relate to public policy, but those are not at issue here. Mr. Depp agrees with those statements. We're talking about the three statements.
Listen,
that
I think
they
we all know that
very
I'm not down for
intentionally
domestic
and very
violence in any
cleverly
way, shape, or form.
put
However,
in
with
to
that
make
being
it
said,
clear the
just
implication
looking
that
at
it was
Amber
about
makes me
Mr.
want to
Depp.
punch her.
They had lawyers from the ACLU working around the clock with Eric George to be as clever about this as possible. And Your Honor remembers the testimony of Mr. Doherty about the consternation at the ACLU when they realized that USA Today and everybody else who read the article knew darn well that this was about Mr. Depp. This cannot be protected by the anti-SLAPP statute. It is a cynical runaround. And I think now that we have the undisputed evidence from the ACLU in the form of the testimony of Terrence Doherty, who is not only their corporate representative, he was their general counsel. He is a brainiac lawyer. They knew exactly what they were doing, Your Honor. And he referred to testimony of a woman at the ACLU who said she had nightmares about Ms. Heard, and he expressed no concern about that. Now, that was either because they knew about, that was either a reference to this game they were playing with the op-ed, or the conspiracy they had to cover up her failure to make the donations. The donations became pledges, but we have evidence that she refused to sign the pledge card. So
she says that she pledged the money, but she refused to sign the pledge card.
Mr. Depp is not suing Ms. Heard for making statements about
that is
society in
incorrect.
general. I think that's very clear from the record evidence. Mr. Depp is suing her for publicly naming him as an abuser by implication and forever tarnishing his good name, an act that, coming from an ex-spouse, is fundamentally personal in nature. For that reason as well, Your Honor, Virginia's anti-SLAPP statute is not applicable. And based on the foregoing, Your Honor, Mr. Depp respectfully submits that the court should grant plaintiff's motion to strike the counterclaims and also strike her claim that she is immune under the anti-SLAPP statute. Thank you very much, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, she just told Rottenborn what he needs to go
Thank
up
you,
and
Your
say.
Honor.
That's why she's staring at him. She's like, you better
As
not
Your Honor
fuck this
knows, the
up.
trial court is required to accept as true all the evidence favorable to Amber at this point, as well as any reasonable inference a jury might draw therefrom, which would sustain the counterclaim. That's the correct standard here. I'll address the actual malice argument first, the agency argument.
At least
Your Honor,
Elaine,
there's plenty
at least
of evidence
Elaine
in the
is
record from which the
entertaining
jury
with
could
her
determine
stupidity.
that Mr. Waldman was Mr. Depp's agent. He made those statements. The statements referred to him as Mr. Depp's attorney. As Your Honor ruled on Friday with respect to the jury instruction conference, an attorney is an agent of his client. Mr. Waldman testified that he's been Mr. Depp's attorney since 2016. He freely admitted speaking to the press on Mr. Depp's behalf, and he refused to answer question after question about that agency, so we can't use that as a sword now. Mr. Chu puts a lot of emphasis on the fact that
he said
Mr. Depp,
required
allegedly
to
didn't
adhere
see
to all the
comments
statements
were
that
made,
favor her
that are the
positively
subject of
are true.
counterclaim.
That's
But
what
as
he
Your
said.
Honor well knows, whether he saw them or not is not the standard for agency. There's also evidence that Mr. Depp met with the Daily Mail with Mr. Waldman prior to the defamatory statements being made and released. I believe that was in February of 2020, just 2 months prior. Mr. Waldman also concocted a story that Amber was being investigated for perjury by filing a perjury complaint against her with the LAPD. He disregarded any evidence that he didn't believe would fit in his narrative, that would fit in this story that he was speaking about on behalf of Mr. Depp.
But she is being investigated for perjury.
The UK proceeding, after Mr. Depp was ruled to be a wife beater by the court in the UK proceeding, the court there.
By the way, for anybody that hasn't seen the UK trial, it was a
got an
fucking
overseas
shamble of a
tabloid
joke.
to run a story claiming that Amber was being investigated for perjury, which simply wasn't true. He walked into the LAPD, filed a complaint for perjury against Ms. Heard, found a media outlet that doesn't follow the two-source rule, and then he had let the world believe that the LAPD was investigating Ms. Heard for perjury. That's a shameful and a sickening example, Your Honor, of the lengths that Mr. Depp, through his agent, Mr. Waldman, would go to smear and to defame Amber Heard, and that continued in the 3 statements in the counterclaim. Your Honor has heard evidence, I won't go through all the evidence, but Your Honor's heard evidence from Ron Schnell, who's traced the negative hashtags toward Amber Heard online associated with those defamatory statements, and noted the staggeringly high number of them that were associated with Mr. Waldman. Under the principles of the agent-principal relationship in Virginia, Your Honor, when Mr. Waldman made those statements, he was standing in the shoes of Mr. Depp. They are one and the same for the purposes of those statements.
There's no way of proving that, though. There's no way of proving that.
Mr. Waldman made these statements with actual malice. There's plenty of evidence from which the jury could infer that. And his own, both from the actual malice from Mr. Depp and Mr. Waldman's own reckless disregard of facts that didn't support Mr. Depp.
Notably noted, yeah.
Manufacture false evidence that did. As Your Honor found in the hearing, I believe it was on March 24th, after Your Honor denied Mr. Depp's motion for summary judgment, Your Honor said, as to malice, a fact finder could reasonably conclude that Mr. Waldman made the statements with malice because Mr. Waldman has no personal knowledge of the party's marriage and still made the statements at issue. Nothing in this case has changed that. If anything, the evidence has only made it more clear that that is an inference.
What evidence? Waldman wasn't, they weren't even able to get like 3 questions in on
Your
Waldman.
Honor, there's no,
because these
no basis
attorneys
to grant a motion
don't
to
understand
strike
attorney-client
agency argument.
privilege.
On the actual malice argument, the evidence shows that not only was Mr. Waldman Mr. Depp's agent, but that the two of them conspired to falsely accuse Amber of creating a hoax and falsify evidence that they believed supported their theory and what they wanted to achieve. As Your Honor well knows too, I won't go through all the law, but both agency and malice can be inferred through circumstantial evidence. There's plenty of evidence in the record from which the jury could infer those. Moving on, Your Honor, to the independent contractor.
I do apologize, everybody, if my internet kind of takes a poop. It usually does every morning at some point in time. So
and as Your Honor
we'll
said
see
on
how long
Friday,
she
there's no
stays strong
evidence
today.
in this case of anything otherwise. As to the argument that the counterclaim statements are statements of opinion, the court has already found twice that they are not statements of opinion, both on January 4th, 2021, in its opinion letter denying Mr. Depp's demur as to the counterclaim statements, and at the motion for summary judgment hearing in March of this year. As the anti-SLAPP argument, the court again has already ruled at the March 24th, 2021 opinion that the statements are as a matter of law regarding matters of public opinion. The court has already ruled that. Therefore, the only remaining issue for anti-SLAPP is whether the intent element of immunity is met. As we discussed on Friday, the intent element of immunity is substantially the same as the actual malice standard, which the evidence in this case easily allows a jury to find in favor of Ms. Heard on that. I won't go through the litany of evidence that supports.
Give me 1 second, everybody. I'll be right back.
Is an abuser here, but I'll touch on a few things that relate to Mr. Chu's argument. One, Mr. Chu was totally misrepresenting Mr. Doherty's testimony. There's not a single piece of evidence, Your Honor, in this case suggesting that Ms. Heard and the ACLU were somehow conspiring to achieve a defamatory implication to Mr. Depp. That's simply not what Mr. Doherty said. Mr. Chu's feel free to argue that to the jury, but that's not what his testimony reflects. Your Honor, there's also plenty of evidence that's been adduced both in Mr. Depp's claim and in Ms. Heard's counterclaim that show that absolutely that the counterclaim statements are 100% false. There was no hoax perpetrated. Mr. Depp is an abuser who abused Ms. Heard. She did not conspire with her friends to create a hoax. She did not create a hoax herself. And just very briefly, some of the evidence that's come up since the last motion to strike, Your Honor, that Mr. Chu conveniently disregards in his brief are the testimony of Rocky Pennington, the testimony of Josh Drew, the testimony of Elizabeth Mars, all of whom completely corroborate Ms. Heard's account of the events of May 21st, 2016. The testimony of Melanie Iglesias, who testified that she covered Ms. Heard's bruises with makeup right after the December 15th incident, that provided ample testimony to support that Ms. Heard often would cover her bruises that were caused by the plaintiff in this case, by Mr. Depp, with makeup. He ignores the evidence of Christy Sexton. He ignores the evidence of Io Tillett Wright. He ignores the evidence of Whitney Enriquez. All of these witnesses and others have testified extensively about Mr. Depp's abusive behavior toward Ms. Heard.
No, they have not. Not a single one of them. Not a single one of them. The only person that's even mentioned that they've witnessed Johnny
Mr. Depp's own
being physically abusive to Amber Heard was Whitney. And her story completely contradicts
There's abundant evidence in the
story.
record, Your Honor, from which the jury could, and again, we believe will find that Ms. Heard is not liable for defamation to Mr. Depp. And therefore, by definition, She has not acted with actual malice, and based on the court's rulings on March 24th, 2021, she would be entitled to anti-SLAPP immunity, which would permit her to ask the court to award attorney's fees against Mr. Depp. So with that, Your Honor, I'm happy to answer any questions the court has.
That's
but
fine. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, I will be brief in deference to the court's time and the jury's time. What Mr. Rottenborn said about Mr. Waldman's allegedly going to the LAPD about perjury is a complete non sequitur. If they thought that that were somehow improper conduct.
And now my dog is barking, so anytime I click on my mic, you guys will probably hear that.
And most of it was thrown out. There was nothing in there about Mr. Waldman going to the LAPD. So that is a very clear non sequitur, red herring distraction. Number two, when Your Honor ruled on summary judgment on the issue of the counterclaims, Your Honor was dealing with a different standard and a different evidentiary record. At that time, Mr. Waldman.
You know, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, this is like an attitude era pro wrestling storyline, isn't it?
Has now testified for purposes of trial. We have his trial testimony. It's very clear that he did not act with actual malice. They didn't even argue that. So that's pretty clear.
Yeah. I love how anytime somebody from Johnny's side mentions Rottenborn, they put some serious emphasis on Rotten.
This is consistent. The third point is that it's all about games. They didn't sue Mr. Waldman on the three statements. They didn't try to fill the hole. They've been telling us for a week that they're going to call Mr. Depp to try to fill the hole in their counterclaims. They didn't do that. And it's very consistent with the game playing. Let's go into court after the police have found no problem, and after witness
call
no
all the police and all the
so there are no visible marks.
Professional witnesses.
Let's not give
liars.
Mr. Depp's lawyer the required 24-hour notice before the TRO. Let's march into court with our publicist, with our lawyer, with our best friend who no longer talks to her. Let's get a TRO. And when the Me Too folks say, why are you taking $7 million from an abuser? They said, I didn't take money from the abuser. I gave it all to charity. Well, they didn't. I don't think anybody should feel bad about them stiffing the ACLU, given what the ACLU did in this case, which is a monstrosity. But she did stiff the sick and dying children. It is gamesmanship. And that's what she's doing here today.
Show him.
The law is the law.
Right now, he's essentially saying the only reason that she's even here is because it's more press for her. Everything that she's ever done is to put her face out in the press so that she can be better known.
Mr. Depp and Mr. Waldman as to these statements at issue, except for the fact that he is an attorney, and that is not sufficient. In a case where they have not even established that Mr. Depp was aware of these statements, and they knew that they couldn't do it, and they didn't even try. And it's more of the gamesmanship when Ms. Heard plays word games with Mr. Depp about, oh, I didn't punch you, Johnny, I just hit you. Imagine if the shoe were on the other foot and Mr. Depp, a man, was saying to a woman, oh, woman up, I only hit you, I didn't punch you. And when it was chilling, when she warned him on the tape, you go tell a judge, you go tell a jury that you, a man, were abused. See if they're going to believe that.
We certainly do.
It is an abuse of the system, and she's done it throughout. Finally, Your Honor, and Mr. Rottenborn makes an excellent point with which I agree, which was that with respect to each of the three statements, Mr. Waldman was clearly identified, even by the tabloid that printed these, well within articles that had
and the headlines that they used to try to say, Johnny, there's proof in the headlines that Johnny's had a past of abuse. They were all hit pieces. They were all clickbait headlines.
It's going to be forwarding their client's point of view. Mr. Waldman is not the only attorney who has spoken out. Robbie Kaplan, who was
even Kaplan's getting upset by this.
Ms. Heard's second attorney. So Ms. Heard started out with Eric George. He made comments to the press.
Objection, Your Honor. Again, this is so much further beyond what Your Honor is addressing.
I'm finishing up, Your Honor.
Okay.
I'm finishing up. My point, Your Honor, and it's on point, is that Mr. George made statements supporting Ms. Heard's position. Ms. Kaplan made very clear statements supporting her client's position on the merits, and so did Mr. Waldman. But everybody knows when reading those that those are statements by partisans. So for the reasons that we've stated and the reasons set forth in the brief, we respectfully submit that the court should grant the motion to strike, or in light of the fact that Mr. Depp may reappear, at the very least, take these motions under advisement until the close of all evidence. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, in this matter, I've reviewed all the defendant's evidence as to her counterclaim, and I've considered the arguments of her counsel and plaintiff's counsel. First, to address a few issues that I believe are outside the motion to strike, and that's as to the SLAPP defense. The SLAPP defense is just that, it's a defense, so it's really not considered a motion to strike. Having said that, I went down that legal road on Friday as far as the SLAPP defense goes, as far as the jury instructions. In this particular case, if the plaintiff prevails, it must be with actual malice. Therefore, if it's with actual malice, immunity does not apply under that statute. So we will deal with that with jury instructions, and we have. As to independent contractor, again, I think it's outside the motion to strike. However, Mr. Waldman was plaintiff's attorney since 2016. Before the initiation of litigation, there is evidence that Mr. Waldman had a certain role during the prior divorce proceedings in the UK case. Additionally, there is evidence that shows his legal representation was broader than just a limited litigation, as outlined in all the cases presenting an attorney as an independent contractor. So the only evidence in this case to this point is that Mr. Waldman was an agent to Mr. Depp, and that is the basis to weigh the motion to strike. As far as the opinions argument, again, I think that is outside the motion to strike. The opinions argument, the court has already ruled on this matter as to the three statements that are issued in the counterclaim, ruled that they were not opinion at the demur and at summary judgment. So that argument will not be part of the motion to strike. So when assessing a motion to strike, the court accepts the favorable evidence adduced as true towards the non-moving party. The court cannot reject any inference from the evidence favorable to the non-moving party unless it would defy logic and common sense.
This poor judge.
Any doubt in question, the court should overrule.
This poor judge. She's
agency may be
she's gonna retire after this.
From surrounding facts and circumstances. When there is no direct evidence, circumstances may and usually are relied upon to determine whether an agency relationship exists. A principal is liable for the tortious acts.
She deserves a mega pint of wine.
The agent was performing his principal's business and acting within the scope of his agency. If an agent's tortious act arises from their agency relationship, is enacted in part to service the principal.
She's essentially just reading back and reading the law right now.
Here, the alleged tort is defamation.
Based on
besides demonstrating the agency relationship,
motions.
The defendant must prove Mr. Waldman published an actionable statement, meaning a statement that is both false and defamatory with the requisite intent. As to agency, Mr. Waldman was plaintiff's attorney at the time of the alleged defamatory statements were made. Mr. Waldman does not deny this, and neither does the plaintiff. Moreover, Mr. Waldman made the allegedly defamatory statements about the defendant during the proceedings of this action and interacted with the defendant once the statements were made while still representing the plaintiff. Taking the surrounding circumstances as a whole, an agency relationship can be inferred, and thus a scintilla of evidence regarding agency must be turned over to the jury. In addition, the jury may infer that Mr. Waldman made these specific statements to a third party to serve as plaintiff by portraying defendant as an opposing litigant in a negative light.
Again, I'm going to let you guys know, if you want to know what the jury's feeling, like during the time of the trial and how they feel during each witness, follow that DUI guy on
As to
Twitter.
actual malice, Mr. Waldman made the counterclaim statements after he met with his client. In addition, there is evidence the plaintiff was with Mr. Waldman at a meeting in February 2020 with the Daily Mail online. Further, defendant claimed that she met with Mr. Waldman where he threw the paper containing the counterclaim statements within them. Consequently, there is more than a scintilla of evidence that a reasonable juror may infer Mr. Waldman made the counterclaim statements while realizing they were false or with a reckless disregard for their truth. It is not my role to measure the veracity or weight of the evidence. The Fourth Circuit and the Virginia Supreme Court have made it crystal clear that actual malice is a question for the fact finder. So therefore, the plaintiff's motion to strike is denied. Okay? Thank you. Is there any other preliminary matters before the jury?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
So essentially, all you need to know from that is that they made a motion to strike all of the arguments against Mr. Waldman's statements on Twitter being attached to Johnny, because they essentially said, well, he speaks on his own. He is not an employee of Mr. Depp. and Mr. Depp cannot be held liable for a contractor's individual statements. And the judge essentially just said, yeah, no. So good morning, everybody. The trial is just getting ready to get underway. They just got done with their morning motions. Depp's team tried to get a motion to strike any evidence from Mr. Waldman to be correlating to Johnny Depp by saying that Johnny Depp cannot be held responsible for Mr. Waldman's statements as he works as an independent contractor and on his own mind. And saying that Mr. Depp did not coerce him into making any of those statements. That motion to strike was turned down. So now they're going to deliberate in front of the judge, and then they're going to probably come in and call their first witness. I'm checking to see if I can see that DUI guy in here. All I know is that he's wearing gray slacks, it looks like. Oh my God, Kappa. I get it. I'm impatient too. I want this thing to get going. Okay. This dog. Oh God, that you want to talk about a face that screams punch me? There it is right there. Jesus. Does everybody in Amber Heard's family have resting bitch face like at all times? DUI guy is there. Yep. DUI guy is there. And what he does is all day long, he just sits there and watches the jury and waits for their reaction to witnesses. And he reports it like consistently on Twitter. He's an awesome person on Twitter to follow if you're trying to follow this case and wondering how you feel that maybe the jury. He's not only an attorney, but he's also a body language expert. So a really good case to follow because he'll give you insight as to what it seems like the jury is thinking. There's Johnny Depp security, the one guy that lost his shit the other day laughing. I believe he's the one that does the woodworking as well. Yes, Nix. Nita, I believe he's in there underneath the premise of press and law. So Also, I know every time in the court, I've been allowed to have my cell phone. It just needs to be silenced. When I was a juror, I was not allowed to have my cell phone on me at all. But anybody that's just in the gallery, which is all the people that sit in the back there, they're allowed to have their phones. And good morning, Bug. I'd like to say thanks again to all the people that are over on my Twitch. I don't get a lot of support over there. Then again, I don't really post very much over there. So I appreciate it. If you are in here and you're watching the trial with us, please do me a favor and throw down a like on the video. I really appreciate it. Just because I'd hate to see 200 people watch this and only get like 3 likes. That just depresses me, really. And you don't want me depressed, do you? I wouldn't want me depressed. Oh, she exactly knew what she was doing. Absolutely. Oh, the lady that brought the llamas. Yes. Yes, the lady that brought the llamas. I love that. I love that Ben Chu posed with the llamas. I'm pretty certain that the defense is not resting right now. And yes, the lawyers do have more witnesses. They have, let's see, they have Kate Moss is supposed to be here tomorrow. They've got Amy, what's her name? Whitney's old friend and boss. So that'll be interesting to watch. What confused you? Oh, are you talking about? Oh, yeah, you're on Twitch. Well, hello, Bane. If the defense is resting now, they're done. And here's the reason why they would rest is because they know they're down to 4 hours and 15 minutes. If they call another witness, they're going to waste another 2 to 3 hours and have no time for proper cross-examination. They know that Johnny Depp's team is waiting for them to run out all their time so that when they bring in their bigger witnesses, they can't rebuttal. When they're out of their time, they're out of time. No, not Whitney. It's Amy something or other. Whitney stayed at her house and said that she had to sleep on her floor, which is not true. It's just wait. It's her last name starts with an H, doesn't it? It's like Hollow or something like that. I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking. This is the problem. This is the problem with Amber's team is they brought on witnesses and they wanted them to ramble on these long, tear at your heart kind of stories. Which one, they let them ramble long enough that they ended up contradicting themselves, making shit up. And it was obvious. 2, they wasted so much time by just letting them ramble on, and that's why when Depp's attorneys come up, such as Camille. You guys notice Camille's like bam, 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 bam. She doesn't let them roll on. She doesn't let them ramble. She cuts them off. She goes, hey, that's not what I'm asking. That's not the question I'm asking. Just answer the question. Yes. Okay. Motion to strike everything after yes. She's like only 6 people of the 35 watching my live have liked this live. I'm sorry. I'm not entertaining enough for you people. It's okay. It's all right. I understand. Hitting a like button is very difficult. It's all right.
Jennifer Howell, that's her name. Jennifer Howell. That's who's going to be coming in later on in the week. I believe they're bringing her in Thursday, I think is what they were saying. But she could come earlier. I don't know. A lot of things might change now because the defense was supposed to call Johnny Depp back up to the stand for examination and rebuttal. But it sounds like they're going to bypass that now. So we'll see what happens. Oh, no. She said that she played. Here's the best part. She continued to make the argument that she did donate because, she uses donate and pledge synonymously. But she says that she did pledge. Problem with that is they've proven that she refused to sign the pledge card. So she technically hasn't even officially pledged the money. No. We're talking about the YouTube watchers, the people watching on YouTube. Hit that like button, people. Come on. I need it. It strokes my ego. Oh, thanks, Ryan. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. Well, awesome. Now we're at 25. All right. Yeah, and that's the thing is when she said, well, I use pledge and donate synonymously with each other, Camille just stared this woman down and goes, well, I don't. Is like, dude, between Camille and Dr. Curry, I don't think I've seen two stronger women, professionals like this in a long time. Like these are the role models that young women need. Is Camille and Dr. Curry. Those are the role models that women need. The Twitch watchers over here making fun of the YouTubers. What's going on, guys? Like, you gonna let Twitchers jump on you? Like, look at how faithful my Twitch team is. Well, essentially, the pledge is so. If it was a conversation, right? If it was a conversation, and you came to me and you're like, "Hey, man, I'm gonna give you $1,000." I'm gonna be like, "Awesome." And then you just ghost me, you telling me that you were going to give me the $1,000, that's your pledge. You not doing it, that's you not donating. My name on Twitch is They Call Me Toby too. Oh, absolutely. One shot, one kill on him. Hi. Well, Michael, didn't you talk to me on Twitch? Oh, I don't even. Do I still even have a Discord? I don't know. I haven't looked at that Discord for about 2 years. I donate allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Oh, there's you know what? Look, it's just, I wish I could be a fly on the wall. Oh God, is it just me or is the judge chewing her out already before? I swear to God, this woman is a train wreck of an attorney. Matt's mixtape. What's going on, brother? How you doing, Matt? Long time no see, man. We just I had a bunch of people ask me if I would go through and watch the trial so that we could all talk about it as it's going on. So yeah, that judge is getting upset. Like it's bad. It's bad when Heard's team is already upsetting the judge first thing. Now, here's the thing, guys. What a lot of people don't realize. Oh, dude, no, we're not. God, I hope we don't see any more of that psychiatrist. Fuck. Spiegel? That guy was Jesus. Dude, do I have to answer that? Okay. Yes, Matthew, this is who we call him. We call him Dr. Street Value. Dude, did anybody else see the video where I'm not saying it was Elaine, but it certainly looked like her. There's a video where Johnny Depp's walking by at a premiere and there's somebody who looks just like Elaine holding a poster of Johnny Depp. Yeah, isn't he dead? Okay, good point, Rossi. So if you go to TikTok and you guys go to see Half Famous, if you guys want, I can bring it up right now. It's only like 2 minutes long, and then we can get back into the trial. I will be more than happy to bring up Half Famous's video that he did of the trial, where he showed that he was like Doc Brown, and then he did the me, myself, and Irene. Let me see it, because I don't know how much longer they're going to be talking about this here.
Anak ganteng mama ini. Boo. Boo.
All right, so let me go to my profile. I know it's got to be in here. It's got to be in here. There it is.
The final week of the Johnny Depp trial has officially started, and it is a doozy. Stay with me on this one. It's a little bit longer of a video, but you will not be disappointed. All hail Queen Camille, because she is destroying people's careers. So Amber's team called up some surgeon to talk about the incident surrounding the loss of Johnny Depp's fingertip. This dude was pretty much up there like,
I have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about.
Okay, so this surgeon dude said that the loss of Johnny Depp's fingertip is inconsistent with the story of the vodka bottle being thrown at him. And he didn't even review all the evidence. But Camille was just like, well, you can't 100% rule that out, can you? And that left the old surgeon boy like,
I can't determine exactly what object did it. I think that I can.
Today, Junior! This dude's bouncing around the question so much and just trying to explain to the jury, but Camille's like,
This isn't the time for me to ask you questions.
which really translates to, shut up, bitch! So anyway, Johnny's team lowered that dude's Yelp review to 1 star. His team went and knocked on Dr. Emmett's door. Okay, it was the psychiatrist, but this psychiatrist came to the stand like,
Ready?
Amber's team questioned him, and he shit on Johnny like Amber shit on Johnny's bed. Apparently, this dude just looked at Johnny Depp and was like,
I'm gonna read your thoughts.
but then Johnny's team did their cross-examination, and this dude lost it. Apparently, he knows it all, because if anybody said anything different, this fool was pretty much just like,
I don't care what anybody says.
he got so upset and frustrated with the cross-examination that he started going in on Johnny's lawyers.
Testimony. So if you still would like to proceed that expert witnesses are ethical, based on that, I am not going to sit here and disagree with you and waste everyone's time. I think it's fairly obvious. But thank you. I'll go ahead. These were your words. I'm just saying them back how they're interpreted.
Yo, even the audience members in the courtroom were like,
These were your words. I'm just saying them back how they're interpreted.
this fool on the stand looking like, And the judge is just like,
Doctor, you're gonna have to just answer the questions. Okay, sorry about that.
and then Johnny's lawyer asked him, hey, what did you use as a baseline for all these diagnoses that you're giving to Johnny right now? And he says something about, oh, I've seen him deal with the media. I've seen him in commercials. I think pirates got brought up. So Johnny's lawyer's like, oh, well, what about Willy Wonka? Have you seen that? Yo, this fool was so flabbergasted at that. He was just like,
Did you look at that one when you were comparing this processing speed?
this fool on the stand just like, Johnny looks at him like, so pretty much Johnny's team took all of Amber's witnesses today and was just like, the final.
It's just too good, man. That is some of the most perfect bit of editing I've ever seen. It's just he did so. I've followed Half Famous for so long. He is another pre-COVID guy who's still doing really well. I'm glad to see that. He's hilarious. I could, but it's kind of long. I don't know if Matt will want to show that on TikTok Tuesday. I believe I'm going to be on TikTok Tuesday tonight with Matt. So I might send it over to him. I don't know if Matt, I told Matt that one of these days on the Thursday show, we're gonna have to eventually, we got to quit skirting around it. We're eventually gonna have to bring up the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial. I mean, people are gonna want to hear about it. They're gonna want our opinions on it. So I think it's going to be necessary for the podcast. Oh, you're welcome. I think it's going to be necessary for the podcast for us to eventually bring that up on one of the Thursday podcasts. Where he plays a drunk character on drunk. I just love the fact that he used part of his analysis was him watching Johnny Depp's performance in Pirates of the Caribbean. Or like, what? He's an actor. You can't use a character in a fictional movie to determine one's character. I have nothing in the house to drink right now outside of mud water or coffee, and I'm not looking for either one of those because I have already pooped today. So now what do I do? Well, what do we got here?
All right, are we ready for the jury then? Yes. Okay.
All right, we're ready for the jury. Let's get this shit show started. Well, in Hart, I believe he made another one too. I believe he's made another one. Jaws of dirt or mega pint cups. Ooh, I could do that. Good morning. Yeah, just look at the look on her face. She's done with all this. She's like, I can't wait to retire after this court case is over. Again, I'll be kind of bouncing back and forth between Twitter and the
I
DUI
apologize.
guy.
We have a few housekeeping matters to take care of, but thank you.
Just kind of
Have
let you
your
guys
seat.
know.
All right, your next witness.
Your Honor, on behalf of defendant and counterclaimant Amber Heard, we rest.
All right, thank you. All right, rebuttal
So
evidence.
no Johnny
Yes,
Depp.
Your Honor, Mr. Depp calls Walter Hamada of Warner Brothers.
All right, Mr. Hamada.
Oh, here we go. They're going to say that this is okay. So this is what
Your
they're
Honor,
going to do.
just
They're
to
going to bring out
clarify,
Warner
this
Brothers
is
and they're
by
going to show that
depositions.
Amber Heard
Oh,
was
okay,
not
well,
contracted
I
or
apologize. I should have
fired
provided
because
that.
of
That's all right.
Thank you, Your
defamatory
Honor.
statements made.
Yeah.
This is where they're going to prove that that she was not let go because of the defamatory statements that were made. Warner Brothers has already disclosed that the decision was already made. So yesterday, this forensic person specifically stated that the reason why Amber Heard was given the role to begin with was because she had such great chemistry with Jason Momoa. The reason why the statement that Warner Brothers has released, why Amber Heard would not be returning in the role, or why they were thinking of not returning her in the role, was because she had negative chemistry with pretty much everybody on set, especially Jason Momoa. Jason Momoa did not feel comfortable being on set with her, that they felt that there was not good chemistry. That is what we are going to see today. I'm almost positive of it.
Ramada, what do you work for Warner Brothers Entertainment Inc.?
Yes, I do.
In what capacity?
My title is President of DC-based film productions for Warner Brothers.
What, if anything,
Can you guys hear that okay?
To testify for Warner Brothers as to topics 2 through 18?
I did not do anything to prepare for this, other than the meeting that I had with the attorneys.
Did Warner Brothers have a contract with Amber Heard to perform an Aquaman 2?
Yes, there was we had an option agreement for her for Aquaman 2.
Do you know what it is?
It looks like a standard contract between an actor and the studio.
And which actor was involved in this? Which actor was a party to this contract?
Is that Ben Chu asking the questions?
It's a contract for Amber Heard for the role of Mara in Aquaman and its sequels.
Which studio contracted with Amber Heard?
Warner Brothers.
When did you come to be the president of DC?
At the beginning of 2018.
Mr. Hamada, was Ms. Heard ever released by Warner Brothers?
Well, I believe it's video, or it might be a phone call.
The Aquaman 2 contract, or what you call the option agreement.
If it's video, I don't know why they're not showing it.
Was she released from her Aquaman 2 contract on or about February 22, 2021?
No.
Was Ms. Heard ever
Oh, that would have been great, Sarah.
For Aquaman 2 by Warner Brothers?
No.
Nope, she certainly was not. Not like they're claiming she was. If you guys already haven't, if you're here on the YouTube channel, please leave a like and show some love.
No.
Why not?
As a rule, as a company, we go through a lot of trouble when we make our deals with our actors. We get options on them for subsequent movies. And I think traditionally, prior to me joining the company, every option was renegotiated. And one of the things that we were trying to put a rein in on was not renegotiating every deal, with the understanding that people come in and make these deals and they have an understanding that there will be options and that there is a deal in place. And it was a big part of our philosophy that we were going to hold people to their options moving forward.
But did Warner Brothers at any point in time reduce?
They're going to just destroy this witness with this testimony. They're going to destroy the last witness from yesterday with this testimony.
The size of the role in the film that she has was determined in the early development of the script, which would have happened in 2018, I would say. So, and from there, beyond normal development, the role sort of, the character's involvement in the story was sort of what it was from the beginning.
Was her role ever reduced for any reason?
No, I mean, again, from the early stages of the development of the script, the movie was built around the character of Arthur and the character of Orm, Arthur being Jason Momoa and Orm being Patrick Wilson. So they were always the two co-leads of the movie.
Did Warner Brothers ever
Patrick Wilson, remember the guy that the lady couldn't remember yesterday.
in Aquaman 2.
No, it was the movie was always pitched as a buddy comedy between Jason Momoa and Patrick Wilson.
Was Ms. Heard cast in Aquaman?
Yes, she was.
Was Ms. Heard cast in Aquaman 2?
Yes, she was.
Was Ms. Heard paid for her services in Aquaman 1?
Yes.
Was Ms. Heard paid for her services in Aquaman 2?
Yes.
Was her compensation for Aquaman 2 affected in any way by anything said by Johnny Depp?
No.
There it is.
Her compensation for Aquaman 2 affected by anything said by Adam Waldman?
No.
Was her compensation?
This is the difference between them bringing in Disney as a witness with a lady that has no knowledge versus the actual president
Johnny Depp
of the DC movies for Warner Brothers.
Was there any delay in Warner Brothers exercising the option to cast Ms. Heard in Aquaman 2?
Yes, there was.
How long a delay was there?
I don't know, probably weeks.
What was the cause of the delay?
There were conversations about potentially recasting.
Who was the producer?
Peter Safran,
Who was the director?
James Wan.
They just talked about it. They just talked about, well, we were talking about recasting the bitch.
Concerns were legitimate.
Yeah, I mean, I had no reason not to believe the director and the producer of the movie.
And you are testifying today as a representative of Warner, correct?
Yes, I am.
What, if any, creative concerns did Warner Brothers have about
Please talk about the chemistry.
Amber Heard
Please talk about
in Aquaman 2?
Please talk about the chemistry.
These are the concerns that were brought up at the wrap of the first movie, production of the first movie, which is the issue of chemistry. Did the two have chemistry? I think editorially
Completely nullified
to
yesterday's
make that
fucking
relationship
witness.
work in the first movie, but there was a concern that it took a lot of effort to get there, and would we be better off recasting, finding someone who had better, more natural chemistry with Jason Momoa, and move forward that way.
Did Warner Brothers
There it is.
Take any steps affirmatively to audition other actresses for the role of Mira in Aquaman 2?
No, we did not.
Other than the creative concerns and concerns about chemistry you testified about, was there any other reason
That's got to sting.
Warner Brothers delayed in picking up Ms. Heard's option for Aquaman 2?
No, it was all concerns about whether she was the right bit of casting for the movie.
Yeah. So essentially they're saying, well, we gave her one shot in Aquaman. She sucked and we wanted to replace her, but it was too late.
Ms. Heard's dispute with Johnny Depp have in Warner Brothers delay picking up Ms. Heard's option for Aquaman 2?
There was none from our end.
Disney will never apologize.
At any point in time, was Warner Brothers considering paying Ms. Heard more money for Aquaman 2 than is set forth in the option contract you previously identified?
No, as I said,
Another lie. See, there it is.
We were determined to hold our actors to their option.
God, they are just destroying
Was
yesterday's
Warner
witness,
Brothers have
her
paid Ms.
forensic
Heard more
expert
money
on
on
Hollywood.
Aquaman 2 if it had picked up her option earlier?
No.
Johnny never had a contract with Warner Brothers. There's no need to apologize to Johnny Depp.
At any time from the beginning of history through today, did Warner Brothers ever release Ms. Heard from the Aquaman 2 contract?
No.
No. Oh,
At any point in time from the beginning of history to today, did Warner Brothers rehire Ms. Heard for Aquaman 2?
No, because we just picked up her option.
Yep.
And when is the last time you spoke with Rob?
Oh, that's
Howard,
true. They did recast Grindelwald, though.
relating
Yep.
anyone to whether to exercise the
That's
option
right.
on Amber Heard for Aquaman 2.
No, it would have been at the same time that I was having those conversations with Peter Safran
So
in 2020.
did you speak with Zack Snyder at all relating to whether to exercise the option?
You're right, William. I forgot about that.
Heard on Aquaman 2?
No, I've not had any conversations with Zack Snyder.
Did you speak at all with Jason Momoa in preparation for your deposition today?
No.
Have you ever spoken with Jason Momoa about any issues relating to chemistry between he and Amber Heard?
Yes.
When did you speak with Jason Momoa about chemistry issues between he and Amber Heard?
It would have been in that same time period where we were prior to green light of the movie.
Now, you were asked some questions about scripts. Did you review any of the drafts of the script for Aquaman 2?
Yes.
When?
Part of my role is I read all the drafts of the scripts as they come in.
When was the first script for Aquaman 2?
Oh boy.
He's like, oh shit.
I cannot tell you. Probably in 2018, latter part of 2018 would be my guess.
And how many versions of the script had been written by the beginning of 2021 for Aquaman 2?
Oh, there were probably half dozen drafts of the script.
All right, what, if anything, did Rob Cowan say to you about chemistry? What specifically about the chemistry between Amber Heard and Jason Momoa?
Just the fact that they didn't really have a lot of chemistry together. The reality is it's not uncommon on movies for two leads to not have chemistry, and that it's sort of movie magic and editorial, the ability to sort of put performances together, and with the magic of, a great score and how you put the pieces together, you can fabricate sort of that chemistry. And so I think at the end of the day, I think if you watch the movie, they look like they had great chemistry. But I just know that through the course of the post-production, that took
Even if she doesn't lose this trial, she's going to be blacklisted from Hollywood.
You just put the characters on the screen together and they work, and sometimes it's harder. And so,
can you give me anything more specific about what it was with Amber Heard and Jason Momoa that was difficult for the chemistry?
No, because it's
start with almost blinding
like
him.
What makes a movie star a movie star? Like you know it when you see it, and the chemistry wasn't there.
You know when you
Now,
see
you've
it,
used the
and
term
she ain't got it.
fabricated a number of times. What did you do to fabricate the chemistry between Amber Heard and Jason Momoa?
Well, those are just, it's editorial. A good editor and a good filmmaker can pick the right takes, can pick the right moments, and put scenes together. Again, score is a big, the music in a scene makes a big difference. It can make a happy scene feel sadder or a sad scene feel happier. And so it was sort of it's just the magic of post-production, editing, sound design, music, etc.
And what do you mean by fabricating, though? I mean, were they literally falsifying, or were they just picking the best music? Let me just finish my question. Were they picking the best music and picking the best looks because that's their job and that's what you do on every scene?
That is what we do in post-production. That's what filmmakers do. This is, on any production, you're doing that. You're putting performances together. Sometimes it's even easier than others. This one.
Well, Amber's talking to him too. You just can't see her
because of the lack of chemistry between the two. But they were able to, James Wan and the editor were able to get it to a place where the end result actually works, and it's great.
Oh, she doesn't care. The only thing she cares about is that her name is in the papers and in the news headlines everywhere.
Right?
To her, negative publicity
together to make the most
good publicity.
successful production.
Absolutely.
Tell you what has been marked as exhibit number 5. It's ALH 18247. And this is a text message exchange between James Wan and Amber Heard. And you mentioned James Wan was the director of Aquaman 2, is that correct? And Aquaman, the first one, correct?
That's correct.
All right. And James is texting to Amber on August 25, 2018. You rated really high with the audience, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. You see that?
Yes.
This is August 25, 2018. What's going on August 25, 2018 that would cause the director to send a text message to Amber saying,
That'd be a test screening. So during our post-production of the movie, we test the movie with an audience, and the audience tells us what they liked and what they didn't like. And so that's what he's referring to there.
And they really liked Amber Heard, correct?
Yes, she did. She tested well.
It hit $1 billion, is that correct?
Yeah.
And more specifically, did you play any role in the determination to communicate to Amber's representatives that
Got one objection already.
Considering not exercising her option?
Yeah, probably in the sense of we had the conversations, and I believe, if I recall, we had, that's where Peter Safran offered to reach out to the agent and express which direction we were leaning.
Have you seen any document that says there was any chemistry issues between Amber Heard
Yes,
and Jason
they released
Momoa
it.
in Aquaman 1?
Documents? No, I mean, those were all conversations.
But if Jason came back and James Wan came back, you were guaranteeing that Amber Heard would play Mira, correct?
That's correct.
And Jason Momoa was able to...
Don't try to drag Jason Momoa through the mud. You're going to lose that.
A different compensation structure, was he not, for Aquaman 2?
That's true. He did renegotiate.
He's the fucking star.
Now, Aquaman was the highest grossing DC film ever for Warner Brothers, was it not?
Yes, it was.
What, if any, issues did
It's
you
pre-recorded,
have with
Eugene.
Amber Heard in Aquaman 2?
My understanding is actually the production went very smoothly.
All right, thank you. Your next witness.
Oh, of course they ended it there. That testimony just destroyed the entire testimony of
Your
the
Honor,
lady.
we call Dr.
that
Colbert
wasted
next, but
2
I know
hours
we
of
have a
time yesterday.
preliminary matter that we need to deal with briefly, if we may approach.
Sure.
I believe this is the first time I've ever seen this woman. Is this the first time she's ever examined? Let's see what she's got in her. So yeah, that just completely destroyed the testimony, the testimony from the Hollywood forensic specialist, expert witness from yesterday. That decimated it. And all the claims that it's customary that everybody will be able to renegotiate, and she should have easily been able to double her salary. And the whole reason why she got the job was because of her amazing chemistry with Jason Momoa. Like all of that was just chucked out the window. And she looks a little bit like Doc Ock's daughter. Wasn't it Doc Ock's daughter in into the multiverse? Okay, Kappa, listen. It's getting to be more than enough. Do you understand? It's more than enough now. Okay. I'm glad that we got that sorted. Oh yeah, no, she was as wooden as Kristen Stewart in Twilight. She was horrible. And I love that her attorneys, I believe that somehow Amber has convinced her own legal team that she was the co-star of Aquaman and not a supporting role in Aquaman, which she was. The co-star was Patrick Wilson, not her. If they make the mistake of going after Jason Momoa, holy shit. I don't think anybody on that team, to include Amber, is prepared for the shitstorm that would follow if they go after Jason Momoa. What do you think, Kappa? Well, now you got nothing? Okay, cool. Unfortunately, we lost 2 more chickens. So out of the mama and 7 babies that we had, there is only 1 baby left remaining and no mama. So something is getting at my chickens. I really need to set up those trail cams. I believe Depp's lawyers requested to approach before they bring in this next witness. That's okay. We have more than enough chickens. And Kappa. Oh, fuck. This dog. Listen, I don't want to stay muted this whole time, but Kappa is going to make me want to throw her out a window. And I can't call for her because the dog is, because she's deaf. Hey. Come here. Come here. Come here. All the way over here. Come here. All the way over here. Yeah, there you go. All right. So now I've got Kappa next to me. No, it's not the bird. They're like just straight disappearing. They're just gone. In the last week, we've lost a rooster, and 3 chickens in this past week. In the past 3 weeks, we've lost 2 ducks, 5 chickens, and a rooster, or 2 roosters. Cap is fine. We're used to her opinions. Yeah. So that's what's going on in the Duskin farm right now. Is we definitely have something climbing in, and we're pretty certain it's a cat. We're pretty certain it's a cat. Peyton keeps going out to try to find it every night, but last night it was just an absolute downpour, so we weren't even worried about it. But apparently something got them. I'm wondering if maybe they slipped out because the crack that's in the door of that pen is really big. But since we've lost 2 ducks out of that pen, I'm thinking it's just not secure enough. So we're gonna empty it out and not put anything else in there until we can kind of refortify it. What's up, Nick? Oh my God! I hope they don't have too many of these. I hope they don't have too many of these. Bench approaches today. So, good Lord, Kappa, for the love of everything that's holy. So we've got the time. What does everybody think about the last witness? Do we think that helped Johnny's case? Do we think that hurt Amber's case? Do we think that hurt the testimony from the last witness, the expert witness from yesterday? Kappa, you're going to make me punch a baby. I'm not even joking at this point. I'm just going to walk to the closest park, find a baby, and punch it. Well, so the defense was going to put Johnny on the stand. I think they realized how little time they have left and how detrimental that would be, because if Johnny wanted to, he could intentionally delay his answers.
We're just going to go ahead and take our morning recess now for 15 minutes. Do not discuss the case and do not talk to me.
Oh, they're taking the morning recess already. Wow.
Do not do any outside research. Sorry, that was the same thing.
It's okay. All right, so they're going to take their morning recess. Guys, that gives everybody about 15 minutes. I'm going to put myself on mute, help the wife out with the chickens outside real quick. I will meet you guys back here. Just to let you know, I believe Law and Crime gives a little bit. Well, they may or may not. I know they do during the lunch break. But I'm not going to be active during the lunch break.
As well. All right. Go ahead and take
I'm going to end the stream at the lunch break, and then we'll start back up when the lunch break is over.
All right.
Yeah, the judge. The judge says at this point I need to go to my chambers and have a mega pint of whatever the fuck I can find. Yeah, it was quick. Well, I mean, they did use up quite a bit of time. First thing, with the motions to strike, and then of course they bring in the first witness. I think that first witness was detrimental to disproving Amber's horrible expert witness that was on the stand yesterday, claiming that the whole reason that she got the role in Aquaman 2 was because of her amazing chemistry with Jason Momoa. Well, we don't really have too many foxes in this area, but what we do have is we have a lot of stray cats. And as you all know, cats will have no problems destroying a chicken. So I'm just gonna pull myself out of the screen for about the next 10 minutes or so while I run outside and help the wife. And I will see you guys back here once we resume. So just kind of stand by, set your phone down, go make yourself some coffee, maybe some breakfast. And I'll meet you guys back in here, or you guys can just sit in here and kind of discuss the case amongst yourselves for the time being. So I'll be right back. Yeah, thanks for tuning in. Don't forget, if you're watching on YouTube, please give a like and share. It really helps out the channel. Not that my channel is very active, but I do appreciate it regardless. So I'll be right back, everybody. All right. So I am back. Chickens have been moved. We're just waiting for the break to be over. Looks like we lost about 12 of our viewers. It's okay. They'll be back. Maybe. I'd like to point out that I am eating today. Okay. So I don't want to hear a bunch of questions as to whether or not I ate. Could you please text Tam and let her know? Really? Right behind me.
Sandwich, Dad.
Look at this. You don't get any of this. Here, I'll give you a piece of cheese. Always wear a shirt when cooking bacon. I have that written in a journal of mine. Back when I deployed to Bosnia in 1997. She's very needy. So my wife knows that if she makes sandwiches, I'll eat them. So yesterday morning, she made like 10 sandwiches and put them in the fridge. So who do we think the next witness is going to be? I don't know, because like I said, we were all kind of expecting Johnny Depp to be on the witness stand yesterday. And when he wasn't, I had a feeling that they weren't going to bring him in today. Once they let Amber's lawyers know how little time they had left, I was like, "There's no way they're going to bring Johnny Depp on the stand. There's no way, because they've got to realize that that would be the worst thing that it could possibly do. Because if I was Johnny Depp and I'm like, "Oh, you got 4 hours left? Yeah, go ahead, ask me questions. See how long I can draw this shit out." Well, Chris, I'm usually on the High Notes app. But it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see, because now they're going to have to cross-examine. Now, my question is this. When they do those videotape interviews, is there somebody with a timer that can determine when the lawyers switch who's talking as to how much time is being used up? Jesus Christ, dog. You're going to give me a heart attack. Here, piece of cheese. I'm wondering how that works. Or if just having the witness on. Or if just having the witness on the tape. I would imagine, yeah. I'd imagine it's like a chess timer. We got 6 minutes left, and I have no idea who the next witness is or what they're going to be testifying. I swear to God. Listen, you're too old for this, and this is not the time for this conversation. You keep coming over here like every time you walk over, I'm just going to give you some more food. That's not how this works. Okay. I'm just trying to finish my brunch. And you're breath is hot. Like really hot. Oh my God. I can feel it on my leg. Well, the whole thing, William, is that their entire job is to prove that Amber's not lying about the allegations. The uphill battle really isn't with her team. The reason why that she can get away with pretty much an inept fucking team and an incompetent fucking set of lawyers is because they don't have to work nearly as hard as Johnny Depp's lawyers, because it's up to Johnny Depp's lawyers to prove without a doubt, because it does have to be a unanimous decision, that Amber Heard has been lying about Johnny Depp's abuse. They also have to prove that he was speaking about him in the op-ed. I think that's been proven more than enough. They also have to prove that she wrote it. That was proved because she even said on stand that she wrote it. But the hardest part is going to be the reasonable doubt part. It does have to have a unanimous decision for it to pass. Oh my God, this dog. So we got about 4 minutes and we're going to figure out what the fuck is getting ready to happen. She's all sorts. You're full of all sorts of life today, aren't you? Here, I'll tell you what. You're not being a good girl, but I will give you a chunk of my sandwich if you at least try to stay quiet for the next couple of minutes. Thanks. Can the decision be appealed? I do not believe so. I don't believe the decision can be appealed because it is a civil case. It's not a criminal case. I don't believe civil cases go through the same appellate court system. What's up, baby? All right. So 2.5 minutes left to go. 2.5 minutes left to go, guys. I can't believe we dropped like 18 people from watching just because it went on break. You're not getting any more of this. It's not going to happen. You need to let Dad eat. I gave you breakfast. I didn't try to get any of your breakfast. Mm-mm. Needy. She's needy this morning. I know how to get her to back off. Hold on. Watch this. Come here. Look what Dad's got. Slicker brush. Slicker brush. Want me to brush you? Come here. Where are you going? Where are you going? Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Ha-ha. Buddy, no. No. The enforcer video? Remind me. What's the enforcer video? You guys have to remember, I have a horrible memory for fleeting things. You love the bionic arm? I fucking hate this thing. Hold on. Patsy's doing great. You share it to my Instagram account. Okay, okay. Patsy's doing great. I don't know how long I wear this. I go back in on the 2nd, and hopefully they'll tell me then. Oh, I've got it saved. I haven't watched it yet. I've got it saved. This fashion means sacrifice. There's no fashion here. Come on, let's go. Let's go. I love it's just a clock in the Virginia. Come on. Good morning, Richie. So, Richie, you probably missed it. They are not bringing Johnny Depp onto the stand. The defense has rested. So now it's all prosecution. Their first witness was the president of DC Film for Warner Brothers, and his entire testimony decimated Amber's expert female witness, forensic Hollywood expert from yesterday.
All right. Yes, sir. Okay.
Toby Raid on who? On them? Yeah. Yeah, you missed it. Like everything that guy said completely contradicted this forensic expert who didn't even know the people. Jesus Christ. Hold on. And we come back from break and right back to sidebar. Son of a... Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Heard's side can no longer really bury themselves because they're not calling in any more witnesses. It was Johnny Depp was going to be the defense's witness. They were going to call him back up on the stand. It's the first intelligent move I've seen Amber Heard's team take since the trial began, knowing that Johnny Depp would just obliterate a huge chunk of their remaining 4 hours if they brought him up on the stand. I think it was it Depp's team that decided to do the sidebar this time? Can we just take a moment to appreciate the epicness of Ben Chu's legal team? Like, this guy has got some fucking powerhouses on his side. Like, he should be really proud. He should be really proud. His firm is going to get a lot more business after this. Although Ben Chu is a goofy looking motherfucker. Like, I'm not gonna lie. He's goofy looking. I'm interested to see this. I'm interested to see what this new lawyer is going to do, because I don't know about anybody else, but has anybody else seen her examine anybody or? No, you know what? I don't think it's really that. I think it's they know that they've got more important witnesses to bring up. They probably knew that they wouldn't get much more from Johnny, and they know that they've got now. They know.
All right. Yes. You ready for the jury?
They've got two really important witnesses that the prosecution are going to call later on this week, and they know that they're going to need time for cross-examination.
Sir, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes,
No, they will not do closing statements today because they still have witnesses that are scheduled for Wednesday and I think Thursday.
I'm just trying to get you on the big screen. We're waiting for the jury. Just give us a minute, okay, sir?
Thank you.
She goes, just wait a minute. He's like, okay. And he gets up and walks off. Stand up, man. We're waiting for the jury, bro. So this is via video, but it is live.
Thank you. You can be seated. All right, your next witness.
So, Nita, you've seen this lawyer?
Colbert.
All right, sir, if you could raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth under penalty of law?
Yes.
Your Honor, I would just object that Dr. Culver appears to have a stack of documents right in front of him.
All right, sir, you can put your hand down, and any documents you have, if you could put them away and just testify from your memory. Okay, sir? Thank you.
Oh, meanwhile, they let the witness on Amber Heard's side fucking read from her notes and argue that she should be allowed to review her notes.
Could you please state your full name for the record?
David Allen Colbert.
And what is your profession?
God, can anybody hear him?
I'm a plastic and hand surgeon.
And how long have you been a plastic and hand surgeon?
Been in practice for 26 years.
Oh, there he goes. Now he's
Where
louder.
do you currently work?
At Cedars-Sinai Medical Center.
How long have you worked there?
For the past 26 years.
Do you know the plaintiff in this action, Johnny Depp?
I do.
And how do you know Mr. Depp?
I had taken care of him when he had injured his hand.
Oh, no!
When did Mr. Depp become your patient?
Sometime in March of 2015.
And what type
This
of
is the guy that
treatment
took
did you
care of Johnny's
provide to
finger?
Mr. Depp?
He had a fracture of his finger with soft tissue loss. And so we reconstructed his finger.
So this is the guy that actually did the reconstruction and
When
not just
did you
an expert witness who
perform the
gave his
first surgery
opinion
on
on
Mr.
what
Depp's
would have
finger?
caused the damage. Oh, shit.
I believe it was around March 20th of 2015.
And what was involved in that surgery, just briefly?
Debriding the devitalized tissue, putting a hypothenar skin graft, restore some of the soft tissue loss that he had, and then also putting a pin in because he had a displaced distal phalanx fracture.
Oh, here we go.
What was the state of Mr. Depp's hand immediately after that surgery?
Huh?
I'm sorry, I think the audio cut out a little bit. Could you please repeat your answer?
It was injured and he had soft tissue loss and a fracture of his distal phalanx.
And what type of cast was on Mr. Depp's hand after you performed that surgery?
It was a plaster splint.
Oh, this guy must have my
Can you
internet.
please describe to the jury what a plaster splint would look like?
So it's like a cast, but you don't want to put everything circumferential on it because of swelling after surgery. So I believe in Mr. Depp's case, it was like 2 fingers. I think the 3rd finger was the one that was operated on. So these 2 fingers, the 3rd and 4th finger together. And it's a splint with plaster on the top and on the bottom that goes around the hand to protect it.
How mobile was Mr. Depp's hand when it was in that cast?
Well, he couldn't move his 3rd and 4th fingers because of the bulkiness of the splint. Typically, post-operatively, it's a more bulkier splint right after the surgery. So it's...
No, fuck you, Richie. I have Windstream.
It gets in the way.
Could Mr. Depp grab someone with that cast on his hand?
He could attempt to grab someone. I don't know how successful he would be. He had his index finger free and his thumb free, but the other fingers were probably not.
He's grabbing people like this.
How long was the pin in Mr. Depp's finger?
About 11 or 12 days.
And how was the pin removed?
It was removed under local anesthesia in my office.
The claw.
How long did you ultimately treat Mr. Depp for his hand injury?
For several months.
And why was that?
Yeah, Rath, but they don't have a cast on their hand while they're working.
A bad injury. It required a few more little office procedures to clean up the tissue. He had an infection as a result of the injury, so he had to be on antibiotics for some time until it finally completely healed.
Do you recall when the infection developed?
It was a few weeks after the surgery, and that's when I took out the pin.
When was the last time that you saw Mr. Depp?
Sometime in 2015. I don't recall when.
And when was the last time that you spoke to Mr. Depp?
The same.
Lillette, this is the plastic surgeon that worked on Johnny
Dr.
Depp's
Colbert.
finger.
All right, cross-examination.
And they never asked him, what type of device did
Good morning,
it appear
Dr.
that
Colbert.
could,
So you
what
said
kind of
that
damage
this
was this?
plaster splint was put on after surgery on March 20th.
Did Rottenborn just reboot? Or did that? What's going on? What happened to the sound? What happened to the feed? No! Hold on, I might have to find another feed. Oh God, is it my internet? Did my Windstream get me? No, okay, I'm fine. All right. Let's hear. Let's see. Oh, are we back? Are we back?
And regardless of whether Mr. Depp could have grabbed someone with the hand with the cast on, he could have grabbed someone with the hand without the cast on, correct?
Seems like everybody's using Windstream today.
Correct.
Michelle, can you pull up Exhibit 400, please? This has been admitted, Your Honor.
All right.
They're saying he could have grabbed somebody with the cast on. He's like, correct. He only had these 2 fingers.
Permission to publish.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Culber, I'm just going to ask Michelle here to just
What is
scroll
up with
through
the
these
echo
pictures,
now?
and I'd ask you to take a look at them.
Your Honor, I'm going to object for lack of foundation for these photographs.
They're already in evidence.
With respect to the questions to the witness.
They're in evidence. Thank you.
Michelle, if you could go back up to that, stop right there.
I'm not impressed with this lawyer on Johnny Depp's side.
Is there anything about the cast that was put
I
on
think she
Mr.
could have
Depp's
asked many more
on March
questions.
20th, 2015 that would have prevented him from doing this damage to Ms. Heard's closet on March 23rd, 2015?
That's a closet?
Overruled.
I mean, he had his other hand available, so.
No further questions. Thank you.
All right, redirect.
I don't understand what they were trying to prove with that.
Dr. Kolber, how many fingers were in the plaster portion of Mr. Depp's cast?
Three, at least two were, and the third one and the fourth one.
And why did you?
Because it's not fully, plaster doesn't go around the entire hand because you allow for swelling. So there's plaster to protect the fracture. So there's a little plaster on it, but it's on the top and the bottom, but it's not completely circumferential. So there's soft spots to it.
And where are those soft spots located again?
Usually we put a piece of plaster underneath the fingers and on top, and then the sides of the fingers, it's soft so that the fingers can swell after the surgery.
Yeah, that closet's
Mr.
easily
Depp
as big
have
as my
hit
living room.
Someone with the hand that had the cast on it.
He could have hit someone with it. It probably would have damaged the cast.
Did you ever notice any damage to Mr. Depp's cast when you treated him after the surgery?
I don't recall. But nothing that comes to mind.
Could Mr. Depp form a fist with the cast on?
No. What?
No.
No further questions.
Okay. So listen,
Thank you,
I'm not.
sir.
I don't really like this line of questioning coming from Depp's team right now.
Your next witness.
I feel like they wasted that witness.
Plaintiff calls Richard Marks, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Marks. So just a reminder that you're. Hold on. Just give us a second on the TV. No, sir, you've already, just a reminder that you're still under oath, okay, sir?
Are you okay? What is up with all the animals today? Huh? What's your guys' problems? All of my animals have some sort of attitude this morning. Everybody wants to be verbal. So who are they bringing up? Oh my God! Are you starting again? All right. What's going on? Well, the chicken was on my lap, Graham. So this is Richard Marks. This is not the guy that sings
Thank you,
the
Your Honor.
song, obviously.
Welcome back, Mr. Marks. You've testified in this case previously, but would you just briefly remind the jury who you are?
I'm Richard Marks, and I'm a full-time entertainment transactional attorney. I make deals every day for productions and for individuals. I'm in the trenches negotiating and then making sure the contracts reflect the deals. And
right there with
I'm
me.
very much distinguished from the other side's expert.
Yeah, he
who's
was
not
early
an
on.
attorney, who's not in the trenches making deals, is not in that day-to-day process.
And are you familiar with the testimony of Catherine Arnold in this matter?
Yes.
Have you been asked to analyze that testimony and provide opinions in response?
That was her. Oh, that was Catherine
And
Arnold. That was
generally,
girl from yesterday, right?
Well, my opinions are that she's very slick and smooth but she's not an expert in deal making. Her assessment of damages is built on nothing, and it's wildly speculative.
Oh, I love this. Oh, I already love this
Are you familiar
guy.
with Ms. Arnold's opinion that it's customary for an actor to renegotiate the fee for a subsequent picture option in a multi-picture contract when a film is successful?
Yes, I've heard that opinion.
And are you also familiar with
This
her
dog.
testimony that under those
ruining
circumstances,
it.
an actor will renegotiate a 50
hate
to
you.
100% increase in their salary for the next optional film?
Yes, I heard her say that.
Do you agree with those opinions?
Absolutely not.
That's
Why
my
not?
boy.
Well, what we're dealing with in this case is a test option agreement. And that's an agreement, it's a multi-picture agreement, and it's the nightmare for people like me. The test is going to take place, let's say, for 10 actors the next morning at 9, and you have to fully negotiate a contract that might cover 4 movies and have it signed before they're allowed to test, so that if they're chosen for the part, we have the full contract. There's no renegotiation. So you've got a contract for a multi-picture deal. It's usually a franchise, and you negotiate the first.
This guy
movie.
is
And normally,
decimating the girl from
if they get
yesterday
the
as well.
part, they're the chosen one. They're the Stars Born moment, if you will. They get the part. Normally, their salary is inflated from their normal salary, because now they're going to play a character that could go on for 4 movies. In this case, Ms. Heard's first salary when she got the part was $450,000. If Warner Brothers and DC Comics decided to make a next movie, they could recast her. They had no obligation. All they had was an option. But if they did cast her up front, that they had agreed to more than double her salary, like 2.25 times to get to the $1 million. These are large bumps, if you will. If an actor is on a series, say, they go and they have 5 options. They go up in increments of 5%, 10%, 20%, not these multiples that you see in a test option agreement. And that's one of the reasons that they aren't renegotiated normally. They are in some instances, but not normally.
What's the significance of the test part in a test option agreement?
The test significance is that an established actor usually wouldn't test. They'd be offered the role.
Which is exactly what I said yesterday.
Actors that needed to be tested to see if the studio wanted to hire them. And then if they hired them, they would be locked up for potentially 4 movies at very lucrative increases, because after Aquaman 1,
I just love that she's telling her lawyers what to do.
Aquaman 2, she gets
This is what you need to ask him.
And Aquaman 3, excuse me, you get to $4 million. These are unheard of bumps if you're going on a normal career and trying to increase your salary by increments.
In your experience, what is customary for negotiations of multi-picture deals?
Well, I think what happened in this case was customary for negotiation of multi-picture deals. And by that, I mean that you assume success. The reason you go from the first Justice League movie where Miss Heard played Mira the first time, the reason you more than double her salary is you assume success. So you've already built in the bonus that Miss Arnold was referring to, a renegotiation, if you will, for the 3rd movie. Instead of doubling her salary, Miss Arnold said it would only be fair to quadruple her salary. And that's just not the way these idiosyncratic contracts work. They're a very small portion of the contracts we deal with.
I love this man. I love what this man
Are you
is
familiar with
doing.
Ms. Arnold's opinion that Ms. Heard's salary for Aquaman 2 could have been renegotiated to around $4 million?
I am.
Do you agree with that opinion?
No, hell no.
Why not?
Well, as I've said, that would now be after a healthy first payday. It's more than doubled, and now it would be quadrupled. That's not the way it happens. Walter Hamada, who is the president of that part of the studio, said it doesn't happen. They're not going to do it. Miss Arnold, for some substance, says, well, Jason Momoa got to do it, but she doesn't give us any of the details. We know that Jason Momoa was in a movie before the Justice League.
He was already a very well-established actor.
Not with Miss Mira in that movie.
Right.
So he had a history before the first movie with Amber Heard. He played Aquaman.
Yeah.
We don't know what his contract, the state of it was when you got to Aquaman 2, and she says, unsupported, that he renegotiated. We're not sure what he renegotiated to. But I can say that at the end of the option period, when you've only got one option left, and you want that star in more movies, you may renegotiate, but it's not a gratuity. It's, we'll give you more for the last option if you'll give us 3 more options. It's a give and take. And unfortunately, Ms. Arnold didn't give us any of that background or those building blocks. And then I think yesterday she said, and the other actors renegotiated. And again, we don't know their salary history. We don't know their contracts.
Right.
We don't know anything.
And neither did she.
She's asking you just to believe her as what I refer to as a professional expert.
Oh, man. Oh, dude, he just
Arnold's opined that
straight
but
Hulk
for
and
the
Loki
alleged
that.
defamatory statements by Mr. Waldman, Ms. Heard would have earned $45 million in the last 18 months and then the next 3 to 5 years.
Yes, I am.
I'd like to address some of the components of that one by one with you, Mr. Marks. Are you familiar with her testimony that Ms. Heard would continue to make films for approximately $4 million each following Aquaman 2?
Yes.
Do you agree with that testimony?
No.
Why not?
Well, again, in Aquaman 2, Amber Heard has already had this huge increase. She worked on Aquaman 2 for $2 million. What Ms. Arnold is saying is, oh, she should have worked on it for $4 million, which I disagree with. And I think there is reasons to negotiate that weren't here in this case. So the $4 million I have a disagreement with. But even if it was at $4 million, or if it was at $2 million, the 4 or 5 movies that Ms. Heard might get might be independent movies. They might be standalone.
Which is exactly what I was saying. It did the budget.
Every actor has a quiver full of quotes, and their highest quote is for the superhero fantasy journey. Their lowest quote might be for the independent passion project, where they'll defer their salary and almost take nothing to work, just
exactly
SAG minimum.
Exactly.
Like
working for McChickens.
To assume that she'd get 4 or 5 more movies at this, her last fantasy quote, would be to assume that those are also those type of movies, playing another character. And Ms. Arnold says that Ms. Heard's breakout moment, her Star is Born moment, is Christmas 2018. If that's true, and I don't think it's true, those moments don't normally happen to supporting cast. But if it's true,
he just said she's supporting cast.
You would expect, if you represent producers, production companies, to flock in to take advantage of this hot star and to sign them up. And we have from Christmas 2018 to spring 20, where there is none of this activity. The Star is Born phenomena didn't happen. Ms. Heard starred in one series of 8 episodes, and she earned a healthy fee, $200,000 an episode. But that's 5 times less than the million Miss Arnold is tossing out, supposedly based on Jason Momoa's quote. She doesn't prove it or give us facts. And Jason Momoa is not a comparable actor. He's been in a series where he's had 78 episodes, 44 episodes, 21 episodes. He played Conan the Barbarian. He was in Game of Thrones. It's not a comparable.
Unresponsive to.
All right, sustain the objection. Next question.
Mr. Marks, we'll get to some of those issues in a moment, but I wanted to.
Oh, this guy's loving it.
I believe you testified a few minutes ago.
I love that. You can tell
your
he just.
understanding is that the last option in a multi-picture deal might be renegotiated under some circumstances. Do you have an understanding of whether Aquaman 2 was the last option in Ms. Heard's contract with Warner Brothers?
Oh, no. Aquaman 2 has not even been released. And Warner Brothers has.
You can tell he just doesn't like Amber Heard, and he has no problems just slamming her. She's a supporting role. She's not comparable to any of these other well-established actors. Like, I love it.
Again. So it's in success, and that assumes that they recast and that they make the movie.
Are you aware of Ms. Arnold's testimony that Ms. Heard would have made several $1 million on endorsement deals, such as the one she had with L'Oreal?
I'm aware of that testimony.
Do you agree with that opinion?
No.
Why not?
Nope.
Again,
I love this guy.
This is a business of personalities. We didn't, after the breakout moment that Ms. Arnold talked about, Christmas 2018, we didn't see endorsement deals flocking to Ms. Heard.
But you saw him for Gal Gadot, don't you?
16-month period before Adam Waldman made a few statements in the London Daily Mail, I believe it was. We didn't see those endorsements coming to her. We didn't. What Ms. Arnold shows you is these non-comparable actors, they had endorsement deals. But she doesn't show you, when she describes the breakout moment and why she's comparing Amber Heard to these, what I call uncomparable actors, but she's making the comparison. She's saying, well, they had all these deals, why wouldn't she?
Yeah, exactly.
But for the statements that happened 16 months later, and I guess my primary question is what happened in the 16 months, even if you believe 3 statements in the Daily Mail are the stake through the heart of this Stars Born moment.
Do you have an opinion about Ms. Arnold's testimony that Ms. Heard would have made $1 million an episode in a couple of streaming series following her A Star is Born moment?
Yes, I heard it. I have an opinion.
What's your opinion?
Well,
say it's ludicrous.
After Aquaman 1, this is a major coup. Amber Heard got that role. She tested for it. She could have been the other 19 actresses or 10 or whoever else tested. Didn't get it. She got the role, and she got her salary doubled for Aquaman 1 to $1 million. Now, Ms. Arnold wants you to believe that $1 million would translate into, she'd get that for each episode of the series. We know what she got for a series. She got a series in that period after Christmas 2018.
She knows she's burnt Lorette.
Spring of 2020. She got a series. It was 8 episodes, and it was $200,000 an episode. And Miss Arnold is from somewhere in a glib way saying she get a couple series of $1 million each. And I can tell you, as someone in the trenches, rarely does an actor get $1 million for a series episode. And again, in those 16 months.
And if they do, it's somebody like
there were no
Seinfeld who's been,
offers
doing the
for
same
$1 million
series for
an
16
episode.
years.
In fact, her only series is the 200,000. And if you look at her resume, the series that Ms. Heard were in, I think the longest one ran 8 episodes. Jason Momoa, if you were to believe Ms. Arnold, and somehow Jason Momoa's agent broke their confidentiality in the agreement, and he had a series at $1 million an episode. If you're to believe that, Jason Momoa has had a series with 78 episodes, with 44 episodes, with 21 episodes, with 18 episodes, with 21 episodes.
God, I love him.
Again, there's
He's
not
just
a
like, it's just everything she said isn't feasible. She was just making shit up.
We spoke a few minutes ago about the test option agreement. What's the significance of the option part of that agreement?
The option part
or
of
the
the
Simpsons
agreement gives the employer, the studio, the option. They don't have to do anything. They have an option to either employ you at a very healthy salary to play this role or not. They can recast the superhero role. You just have to think of how many actors have played Batman or Superman.
There we go again.
They can do what they want. And indeed, since there's no contract, they only have a choice to exercise their option or not. They might say, we're not exercising.
Your Honor, I use option and contract.
Who knows what the negotiation would be? But it's not a contract until the studio exercises the option, and they don't have to.
What's the alternative to an option agreement?
Well, the alternative is most agreements in Hollywood, you're hired to play the role. Or once you exercise the option, then it becomes, for that picture, an agreement like others in Hollywood. You are now hired to play that role. So most contracts are guaranteed, you're hired to play the role. In an option agreement, once they exercise the option for that movie, it becomes a guaranteed contract.
Are you aware that Ms. Arnold testified that Ms. Heard was released from her Aquaman 2 contract and then subsequently rehired?
I heard that testimony.
Is that consistent with your experience in the film industry in connection with these multi-option contracts?
No.
No.
Why not?
Not at all.
Again,
and it's already been proven false by the
don't do things they don't have
the
to
head
do.
of DC for Warner Bros.
As we heard Mr. Hamada, the president of the studio, say, you either exercise your option or you don't. They exercise their option. He denied releasing and then rehiring. And in my experience, in almost 5 decades in the business, doing this type of work, not talking about it, not consulting. I mean, I have, I heard Ms. Arnold say she'd been an expert 100 times. I'm a transactional lawyer. I do this occasionally. Basically, it's not a contract till they option it, and they pick up their option, and at that point, it's a guaranteed contract, and then different rules apply to it.
In your experience in the industry, do studios typically comment on those types of actions that they're taking with respect to options?
No, just like Mr. Hamada said, they don't need to comment on it. They either exercise the option or they don't. In Hollywood, silence is the default. You play no card before it's time. And the cards there were exercise the option or not. And I was surprised by Mr. Hamada under oath, basically saying that there was this discussion of chemistry. That
objection, Your Honor, hearsay.
I think it was an in-court statement this morning, I believe, Your Honor.
It certainly was.
That's right.
It's the same hearsay that you were. It's hearsay like yesterday. I mean, it's hearsay.
I'll overrule the objection. Go ahead.
Thank you.
I didn't hear.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, go ahead. Overruled. It was just said in court like an hour ago.
Mr. Amata say that they talked about chemistry. That would normally be behind closed doors because it can't help your relationship with the actor. You're either going to exercise or not. And that was
this poor guy has had to repeat himself
from someone at his
over and over.
And so
I can't wait for please somebody tell me
at face value
that Elaine is going to be the one that cross-examines.
He was telling the truth, but it wouldn't
Objection,
be.
Your Honor.
I'll sustain the objection.
Mr. Marks, are there circumstances where a studio would be more likely to say something about not using an actor again in a franchise?
Yes.
What are those circumstances?
Once they've exercised the option, once the contract is guaranteed, the studio still has the right to pay the actor, but not play them, pay or play them. And that is a rare condition because you've hired the actor, you've got to pay them, but you say, go home, we're recasting. In that situation, after you've exercised the option and the contract is guaranteed, if you pay off the actor, that's normally commented on. That becomes a bit of information because it's not normal.
Is that circumstance different from Ms. Heard's contract with Warner Brothers for the Aquaman movies?
Oh, yeah. Ms. Heard's contract, again, it was just an option. Either we exercise it or we don't.
Exactly.
If we exercise it, she's in the film. If we don't, she's not. Until we exercise it, we have our right to recast or not make the movie. And even after we exercise it, we'd still have a right to recast and not make the movie.
She's writing everything for her lawyers to ask because they have no idea what to ask. She's telling them what to ask.
Do you understand that Ms. Arnold compares Ms. Heard's career trajectory with that of other actors, including Jason Momoa, Gal Gadot, Zendaya, Ana de Armas, and Chris Pine?
I heard that.
And what's your opinion of those actors as comparables for Ms. Heard?
There's no comparison.
Even Ms. Heard's agent, Jessica Kay, said that 4 of those actors weren't
Objection, Your Honor.
comparable.
Hearsay.
And I believe same response, Your Honor, that it was in testimony that was played in court earlier this week.
I mean, that's not what she testified to. I mean, he's characterizing testimony that was from days ago, and I don't even think she testified to that, Your Honor.
This poor guy, he's like, ugh.
Examine overruled.
Overruled. You may continue, Mr. Marks.
Again, they are not comparable. Jason
Elaine is
Momoa
lost.
was Aquaman.
She has no idea what she's
Chris
going to say or do.
Pine was Captain Kirk. Gal Gadot was Wonder Woman. Zendaya has been working on Disney Channel since she was 13. She's in all the Spider-Man movies. She goes by one name. Ana de Armas, when she was in a movie that they call, her breakout, it was as a nude poster. She's in an ensemble piece, Knives Out. These are not comparables. Now, Ms. Arnold stuck to Jason Momoa, who was the most non-comparable because of his history and his career. But she didn't give us the advantage of telling us what his contracts were, what he renegotiated to, what he earned. She didn't give us any of those building blocks. She just created
nothing but this guy destroying the final witness from yesterday.
And then said what Ms. Heard should earn, but she never gave us the salary of Jason Momoa or the other comparables. And she built like this house of cards on nothing. She showed us with her words, the beautiful clothing that the emperor was wearing. But we could see, if you know the business,
Objection, Your Honor.
that he wasn't.
Beyond the scope of the question.
All right, I'll sustain the objection. Next question.
Okay. You were just speaking about Mr. Momoa as a comparable. Are you aware that Ms. Arnold compares Ms. Heard to Mr. Momoa as an actor with equivalent franchise experience who was able to renegotiate his salary for significant increases in bonus?
Yes.
What's your response to that opinion?
again, he didn't have comparable franchise experience to Ms. Heard. He was Conan the Barbarian. He played Aquaman in a movie that Amber Heard was not in. He played Aquaman, not a supporting character like Mira. It's just not comparable. And you can say the words, but I saw
I don't want to talk too much because I just love everything coming out of his mouth.
Something to build on, which if she was a negotiator in the trench, the studio negotiator would say, okay, so show us, where's the comps? Let's talk numbers, because ultimately that's what we have to get to, not just because you say it so. We just don't believe you. You've got to show us.
I love this man.
Your experience in the industry, what
I want him to be my dad.
influenced the negotiation of the terms of a
At least a good
film
uncle.
agreement with an actor?
Well, I mean, first it depends on the film. If the film is $1 million movie and everybody's deferring their salaries, that's one thing. If it's a superhero movie, that's another. But for deal makers and negotiators, the best predictor of what the deal should be is past earnings, precedent, comps.
Yeah, she has no precedence
you also look at
of
the budget of the movie, what it can bear.
higher salary.
Because if Jason Momoa's comp is $10 million, but the budget's $10 million,
I'm screwed if I ever have
he
to
has
negotiate
another
based on
price
past
for that
salaries.
movie. But
They're going to be like, I thought you worked for
best
free.
predictor of future earnings is
I'm
past
just asking
earnings.
to go up from McChicken
And I didn't
to Mexican
see
pizza.
any, Ms. Arnold talk about past earnings at all, except the earnings in this rarefied superhero 4-picture deal, where instead of incremental increases, which you normally see, it was multiples increases. And then when you get on a series, the big renegotiation was when the network has no more options. Until then,
She's claiming
the
$45
actors on the
million in
series
lost
get
wages.
5, 10, 15, small percentage raises. They don't get multiples. They get the multiples if it's a success and the studio wants to continue making the series and they want to keep these characters. That's when the renegotiation happens. Here, even if we believe Ms. Arnold, after Aquaman 2, there was still an option waiting at a big price, double the previous payday.
What's the significance of the timing of the Waldman statements to the opportunities Ms. Arnold claims Ms. Heard lost?
Oh, none.
Well, the
There's no
argument, as I
significance. There's 16 months in between.
Is that Ms. Arnold says that Ms. Heard lost all these opportunities because of those losses were caused by Adam Waldman's statements 16 months later. So I think the timing.
Sure.
Are they approaching? Oh God. Come on, Rottenborn. This man is completely like if Miss Arnold was not, if the expert witness Miss Arnold yesterday was not dismantled by the Warner Brothers head of DC filming, this man is putting the final nail all the way through the coffin, into the dirt, through the crust of the earth, and into the earth's core. It might pop out of the other side. He's slamming this point home so hard. This is what happens when you bring in an expert witness that makes no sense, doesn't know what they're talking about.
My overall
makes
assessment of her opinions is that they're not worth the paper they're not written on. She knows something about our business, but not about negotiating deals. She may have gotten someone at the Endeavor office to breach confidentiality.
That's speculation.
But she never laid out the building blocks.
There's objection. You have to stop talking, Mr. Marks. Thank you. beyond the scope.
Yeah, Mr. Marks, can you just limit your testimony to your opinion about
Okay.
Ms. Arnold's opinions, please?
My opinion, as someone who's made deals as a deal maker for almost 50 years, is that she calls herself an expert, but she's not. She doesn't have the background. She doesn't have the day-to-day knowledge. And her testimony that I heard did not back up her bottom line. If you want to get those figures, you have to show why they're deserved. And again, she was constructing.
Johnny Depp might look at this guy and be like, "Hey, you looking for a new client? I need somebody to negotiate my contract."
Under scrutiny by someone who makes deals.
I would want this guy fighting for me for a contract. He sounds like he knows exactly what he's doing. There you go, Rottenborn. Get all your papers together. I can't wait for this. What are you going to bring?
Good morning, Mr. Marks.
Good morning.
So you agree that studios
Oh yes,
use
Kate.
comps
This
to
guy
negotiate
has decimated their
deals,
case.
correct, with actors?
Sometimes they do.
And you have an issue with the comps that Ms. Arnold used.
Very
correct?
well spoken. Very clear.
As you testified to.
I have an issue with the comps that she says she used that she didn't disclose.
The comps being the actors that you just talked about. She did disclose, I mean, she disclosed the actors.
She disclosed the actors and budget figures from their movies. She never disclosed their salaries and salary history as comps.
You're not offering a different set of comparators that should be used, correct?
I'm saying if you are going to...
That's not my question. Are you offering a different set of comparators than what Ms. Arnold used?
No.
I'm not here offering comparators. I'm saying what she offered are not comparators.
That was my question. You're not offering comparators, correct?
No, I would say that Ms. Heard's comparisons are where you
That was
look.
my question.
Okay, come on, dude. Don't get.
All right, we'll strike after that. Just answer the questions, Mr. Marks. Thank you.
Now, you're a deal maker, correct?
Yes.
What actors have you negotiated for in superhero movies?
With Rottenborn, I'd be short with all my answers.
Well, recently I've negotiated for Chris Pratt in a superhero series for Amazon. I've negotiated a deal for Michael Douglas, not in a superhero movie, but a historical movie. I've negotiated recently a deal for Paul Rudd and Will Ferrell on an Apple series.
This guy's got some good name drops.
Billy Crudup on an Apple series. Those are recent talent deals.
What actors have you negotiated for in a superhero movie?
He just said.
As I sit here now, I can't remember a superhero movie that I've negotiated. I've certainly negotiated over my career.
There you go. You guys want to become famous? That's how you do
Franchise
it.
movies and fantasy movies.
Your Honor, so it's no, you haven't negotiated with for any actors for superhero movies.
Well, he just said Chris Pratt.
You would define like, I don't know, Jungle Book isn't a superhero movie. It's more of a fantasy.
Okay. So no, correct. Your answer is
Okay,
no.
all right. So as I sit here, I can't think of a Marvel type superhero movie that I've negotiated. Although I know there's one or two in here.
Now, you testified and you agree that Mr. Momoa negotiated his multi-picture contract for Aquaman 2, correct?
I heard Mr. Hamada say there was a renegotiation, but no facts were pro-offered, such as he didn't have an option. His options were out. What he was earning and what he renegotiated to, and he is Aquaman man. So yes, I did hear there was a renegotiation.
And you understand that his salary went from $3 to $4 million to $15 million.
As the main star. He's the drawing attraction.
I haven't heard any testimony under oath that that's where the leap was.
Now, Ms. Heard's contract.
Did he get more,
Ms.
did they
Heard-
get more options for, when they
Ms.
made
Heard-
that leap, did they get more options?
Ms. Heard's contract was a talent option contract, correct?
Yes.
And you agree that for if there's an Aquaman 3, Ms. Heard would have an option to receive $4 million, correct, for the movie?
Well, actually, you would language it, Warner Brothers would have the option to engage her.
And if they engaged her, she would receive $4 million, correct?
She doesn't have the option to refuse. They have the option to engage her.
And she would receive $4 million, correct?
Yes, $4 million.
Would you agree that the money Amber was making on Aquaman 2 or 3 would be her market rate for future studio movies?
No.
I would think it would be her rate for future studio superhero movies, but not necessarily.
And how are they saying that she lost in Aquaman 3? That's not even conversation.
That could be
Her
other type of studio movies.
Her option for $4 million would be if they opted to go with an Aquaman 3. If they chose
If I
to
was
use her. So you
Ms.
can't even
Heard's
say that
agent,
she's lost
that's
that
where I
money,
would
which is
start.
what they're trying to say.
Assuming everything was equal, the budget of the superhero movie, that she was in the ensemble. There's a lot of ifs to look at, but all things being equal.
You agree that Aquaman was a breakthrough role for Ms. Heard, wasn't it?
No.
It's the first movie of that ilk that she makes, but she is not Aquaman. She is Mira.
But it was a breakthrough movie for Ms. Heard, correct?
No.
For her, it's a breakthrough movie to be in that film and in the ensemble. Absolutely.
And she
But
was
it's not a
the
breakthrough
female star
role.
of that movie, correct?
I believe so.
You would agree that for all of the actors Ms. Arnold listed as comparables, their career
I would say
breakthrough, correct?
this. She was the starring
She
female
didn't
would have
give us
been
the raw materials to look at,
Nicole Kidman.
but I'll take your word that all those unrelated actors in unrelated films, except for Jason Momoa, they went up. As did Miss Arnold's when she went from 1 to 2.
In your experience, can you identify an actor or an actress who's not been able to get a new studio movie after a breakthrough performance in a superhero movie?
As I sit here now, I haven't been asked to opine on that, but there are lots of supporting characters in movies that don't
the guy
appear
that
in
played
next movie.
Tony
But a
Stark's
female
best
star
friend in the
a
original
breakthrough
Iron
movie in a
Man did
superhero
not
movie.
return
Can you
for the
identify
same
any
role.
actress who's
They
not
got
gotten
a
another
different
studio
actor
movie
for
after
that for that role in Iron Man 2 and 3.
Well, after Miss Heard's breakthrough in 2018, she did get Aquaman 2.
Aquaman 2 was already, she already
Okay.
had the option for Aquaman 2.
All right, so she did. Miss Heard did not get any movies after 2018, long before the Adam Waldman statements.
Other than Ms. Heard, can you identify any actor or actress who's not gotten another studio movie after their breakthrough in a superhero movie?
As I sit here now, I haven't been asked to research that, and I can't. That would be a normal thing.
And you're not providing an alternative number for Ms. Heard's damages, correct, for the jury?
Correct. I'm not providing an alternative number. I think.
You know what he should have said? He should have said yes. Johnny Depp in
what they
Fantastic
paid.
Beasts did not get a returning
Strike
role.
After no, I've not been provided another number. That's all. I mean, my question was, you're not providing another number.
I think it's in fairness and the full answer to the question, Your Honor.
It was a yes or no question. He said his answer was no.
I'm not going to strike it.
Okay. All right. No further
All
questions.
right. Redirect.
Mr. Marks, in response to some questions from Mr. Ladehoff, you were discussing some franchise and fantasy movie agreements that you've negotiated with actors. Could you just describe some of those for us?
I've had such a long career that I mainly forget what I've done, but I negotiated all the contracts for Pinocchio, if you will, that was produced. Is Coming to America the original? Is that a fantasy movie? The Golden Child, is that a fantasy movie? Yeah, and by the way, I may have negotiated contracts, and ultimately the film wasn't made. But as I sit here now, those are the only ones that come to pass. If I was looking at my resume or going through my files, I might think of others. But there isn't a deal that I haven't made.
And I think you also testified in response to Mr. Nadelhast's questions that you have negotiated some deals for Chris Pratt and Paul Rudd. Do you recall that testimony?
Yes, these are for a streaming series.
Do you happen to know if both of those actors have played Marvel superheroes?
I believe they have, but don't quote me because, that's not my genre.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Marks. You're free to stay in the courtroom or you can leave, okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, stay there, man. Stay there just so you can be in the background. Oh, I liked him. Oh, I liked him a lot.
Michael Spindler?
I don't know what Rottenborn was trying to get at, but his questions to him were pointless.
You've testified previously, correct, Mr. Spindler? All right. Just a reminder that you're still under oath.
Oh, shit.
Okay,
We got
sir?
another one
Right, thank
already? But I got to go to the bathroom.
Yes, sir.
That guy represented
Good
it.
morning, Mr. Spindler.
That guy represented
Good morning.
Eddie Murphy in his prime.
Can you remind the jury who you are and what you do?
Yes, I'm Michael Spindler. I'm a forensic accountant. I'm a CPA, a certified fraud examiner, amongst some other certifications. I'm with B. Riley Advisory Services, a national firm that does forensic accounting, bankruptcy and restructuring work, and business valuations and appraisals. I've got over 40 years of experience.
Are you familiar with the testimony rendered by Ms. Arnold in this matter?
Yes, I am.
Oh, I love it. Every witness they're bringing is just here to destroy Mrs. Arnold's
economic
bullshit
damages
expert credibility.
resulting from 3 statements made by Mr. Waldman.
Yes, I do.
Do you have an opinion of that claim?
I do.
Oh, here we go.
All right.
What do you got? Let's hear your opinion, sir. Oh, I'd like to approach. I'm not prepared for this. Oh, is it Elaine? It's Elaine. Elaine's gonna cross-examine. We get to hear stuttering. We get to hear. I'm really trying here. So I had to mute. I had a pig over there in the back door, if you guys couldn't tell. Had an itchy hoof. So she was scraping up against the door frame. She's a very happy pig. Time for candy. Wait a minute. Where'd Elaine go? Where'd Elaine go? Oh, yeah. I'll be right back. I got to pee during sidebar.
Thanks, Mr. Spindler. Now, you indicated that you had listened to Ms. Arnold, and she testified on behalf of Ms. Heard relative to economic damages. Have you formed an opinion as to the testimony and opinion rendered by Ms. Arnold?
Yes, I have.
And what's that opinion?
It is not adequately supported and it is unreasonable.
There were multiple elements to that analysis, both damages related to her film career and to endorsements. Have you analyzed both those issues?
Yes, I have.
What is your opinion of the claims that have been asserted relative to the film career and endorsements?
Okay, well, first of all, with respect to her damages calculation, there
Okay.
was no calculation per se.
Let me take sips like Dr. Spiegel yesterday.
Initially looked at these comparable actors and seemed to use that as a basis for numbers. She didn't provide the underlying calculation. She didn't provide underlying support. And then it appeared as though in her testimony, she backed away a little bit from that, but she still suffers from the issues of not providing detailed calculations or support for where those numbers come from. And she still, to some extent, appears to be using some kind of comparable analysis.
All right. What is the type of analysis that you think is appropriate here?
Well, I think, and as you heard from the last witness, I think that something that is anchored in facts, taking a look at historical compensation as a basis for anticipating future compensation.
Thanks, Richie.
Had you looked at
Oh, absolutely. She was just talking out her ass.
compensation?
Yes, I have. I've looked at tax returns that were provided for the period of 2013 through 2019.
Why do you want to use historical earnings?
Well, once again, you want an analysis that's anchored in fact. I don't believe that Ms. Arnold has done that in her analysis. So here we've got some actual data. We've got some historical compensation. And as the last witness mentioned, that often provides somewhat of a basis for future anticipated earnings. In addition, I believe that Ms. Arnold herself said that she had hoped to be able to look at a renegotiated salary for Aquaman 2 and then use that as a basis for future compensation, that being the new kind of base, if you will.
Yes, the
Are
wife's
there any
wrapping
years in
knives and
particular
duct tape to
that
throw
you
them away.
focused on in your analysis as to Ms. Arnold's testimony?
In terms of the historical compensation?
Yes.
Well, for 2013 through 2019 in total, her compensation was around $10 million for all those years combined. In 2019, the last of those years, her compensation was somewhere between about $2.6 million and $3 million. Now, that's a good year. That's known as a clean year.
What do you mean by a clean year?
Well, for example, 2019, you had Aquaman was released in December of 2018, and that was a successful film. So in 2019, you've got the benefit of that kind of success, and you also don't have any potential impact from the alleged defamatory Waldman statements that occurred in April of 2020. So 2019 is clean of all that.
What did you understand Ms. Arnold's methodology to be?
Her methodology initially appeared to be based on these comparable actors that she had identified, and theoretically, the compensation that they earned, although she doesn't identify what that compensation is or provide any support for it or in calculations.
Of course not.
What is
Why
your
would she?
opinion of that methodology from an accounting perspective?
That methodology was unsound. It's just unsupported. There are no numbers. There's no data that she provided and support for that.
But she said it, so therefore it had to be correct. Right?
What methodology
that's how
did you
expert
understand
testimony works.
Ms. Arnold to adopt at trial?
Okay, well, it looked like somewhat of a mix and match approach. She used different approaches, I believe, for different elements of the damages, although it's still a little bit unclear to me, a little bit vague. But there are 4 basic components that she was looking at, and we can go through those in any order you wish.
All right. With respect to the television series portion of her analysis, what do you understand
$1 million.
that methodology to be?
Okay.
Objection, Your Honor. May we approach?
All right.
Yeah, we've got another approach. Yes, Terrence Howard is who was in the original Iron Man as Rhodey, and he was replaced by Don Cheadle. And I think Don Cheadle did a great job as War Machine and Rhodey. I think he did a wonderful job. But that's a perfect example of somebody that's been in a superhero movie in a supporting role that did not get selected in the option for the second role and was replaced. It's a perfect example. I don't even think Miss Arnold Googled, because she didn't even know the roles that these other actors that she was using as comparisons had been in. Exactly. And here's another example of, well, I want more money now. I want to renegotiate. He probably also had an option in his contract as a supporting role. It was like, well, Iron Man did really well. I want more money to star in the next one. And they're like, yeah, no, we already gave you the option. This is your contractual option that if we so enact on it, this is what we've already agreed on, that you've already agreed on, that we're going to give you. And we did factor in the possible success of that movie. So that's where that option agreement came from. And the moment he's like, it's still not enough, they're like, fine, we'll find Don Cheadle. I don't listen, and I'm gonna reiterate this multiple times. I'm all on Team Depp. However, I do not have high hopes that he's going to win the defamation case. And the reason why I say that is it's just so difficult to prove. Defamation cases are almost impossible to win. But I think he's going to get out of this what he had wanted to get out of this, which was he wanted to show Amber Heard couldn't be trusted, that she lies consistently. She's just not a good person. And I think he's proven that time and time again. Well, the thing is like, so Terrence Howard has a very militaristic kind of approach to himself as it is. He's a much more stiffer, more serious type actor, where Don Cheadle really is a much more laid back, more charismatic actor, which I think kind of lends a precedence to being a good supporting actor to Robert Downey Jr., who is also an extremely charismatic actor. So when you get two really charismatic people working together, they're going to have better on-screen chemistry than somebody that's extremely charismatic versus somebody that's extremely stiff.
The earnings from television shows. Did you analyze what?
I realized what I just said was muted, but if you want to check out any other of the trial, if you guys can hear me over the noise in the background, look up
during
Gold
2019,
TV
she
on
entered
YouTube,
into a
and you can
contract
get all
in July of
whatever you need.
2019 to appear in a television series at $200,000 per episode.
What about endorsement deals? Did you look at what she had made on endorsement deals during that period?
She did have a contract with L'Oreal at $1,625,000.
All right. With respect to her movie roles, what were her historical earnings during that period?
Well, certainly for the most recent years, you had the Warner Brothers deal, which was a 4-picture deal. The first film was $450,000. Then the first Aquaman was $1 million base fee. Then $2 million for Aquaman 2. And presuming that there was an Aquaman 3, that would have been $4 million.
Okay.
And those were not contracted, those were options that Warner Brothers could act upon if they
Because
so
you want
wished.
your analysis to be anchored in facts. You want it to have a sound methodology, and you want to come up with a reasonable result. So if you take a look at, for example, the analysis that Ms. Arnold did, it didn't appear to be.
Let's just look at the analysis that you're doing. What you said, I think, is you wanted them anchored in facts. Why?
Because that provides a sound basis for coming up with something with reasonable certainty. There's AICPA, or American Institute of Certified Public Accountant guidance with respect to reasonable certainty. And those are the basic elements of it.
Thank you. No further questions.
All right, cross-examination.
Okay, so it's not going to be Elaine. It's going to be not Rottenborn. It's going to be their third guy, whoever. I don't. Not much experience with understanding this dude. So
good morning.
I'm going to ask you a few questions that may refer to the statements in Amber's counterclaim against Mr. Depp. When I refer to those statements, I'm going to refer to them as the Depp-Waldman statements. Do you agree that we can both be on the same page what I'm referring to when I say that?
That's fine. You can use your terminology.
I'm sorry, there's an objection, sir. Hold on.
Can we approach?
Okay.
by just trying to say the Depp-Waldman statements, they're once again trying to tie Waldman's statements were made under the influence and approval of Johnny Depp, as in he consulted Johnny Depp before he ever made the statements, and Johnny was like, absolutely, full send. That's what that objection was just about. That's exactly what that last objection is about. That's why they're approaching the bench right now, because they're trying to make this, well, Waldman said it, so therefore Johnny said it, and he's responsible as well, because Waldman worked for Johnny as an attorney, and we're now going to make this Johnny's statements, not just.
So, Mr. Spindler, when I refer to the Depp-Waldman statements, you understand me to be referring to the statements in Ms. Heard's counterclaim against Mr. Depp, correct?
I'll understand that, yes.
Now, you're here to provide a rebuttal opinion to Ms. Arnold's, part of Ms. Arnold's testimony, correct?
Correct.
You're not providing an opinion on whether Ms. Heard saw Mr. Depp, correct?
That is true.
You're not offering an opinion as to what any of the underlying facts relating to whether Mr. Depp abused Amber, correct?
That's correct.
You're not offering an opinion as to the magnitude of damages that you believe Ms. Heard may be entitled to if she proves defamation by Mr. Depp. You're just reviewing what Ms. Arnold has said, correct?
Why does this need to be put out there?
Your analysis to be
this is all obvious
in the facts, right?
Anchored in facts.
Anchored in facts. You'd agree that what an actor earns in one period isn't necessarily reflective of what he or she may earn in future periods, correct?
Correct.
And that's because
there can be some variability.
An increase in the number of roles may lead to greater income, correct?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I was speaking, I didn't hear.
One of the reasons that what you earn in one period may not be reflective of what an actress may earn in future periods is because an increase in the number of roles may lead to greater income, correct?
The number of roles or the particular project itself, yes.
Sure, getting better roles may lead to greater income, correct?
Correct.
And the same is true for an endorsement. As an actress's profile grows.
Like, what's his name? Skeet Ulrich, the guy that was in Scream, played one of the main bad guys in Scream. How much have you seen him in since then? That I would have considered that a breakout role for him.
Say 2013 to 2019 that you testified to isn't necessarily reflective of what she might earn over the next 5 years, correct?
Not necessarily. It is a good indicator, though.
And you'd agree that from 2013 to 2019, in terms of earnings and star power, that Ms. Heard's career trajectory was on the upswing, correct?
There was a slight increase during that period of time in her earnings from 2013 through 2019.
And you'd agree that that was as a result of getting more lucrative roles, right?
Yes.
Now, you're not a causation expert, right? You're just
now we can.
Expert.
We
That's
can
correct.
we
So
could
you're not
probably
testifying
make the
as to whether
assumption
Depp
and
Waldman's
speculate that the
statements
only reason
caused her
that
to lose
Amber
any
got the
roles,
role was
correct?
because nobody knew who she was
That's
prior
correct.
to getting even
And you're
married
not
to Johnny.
offering any opinion as to whether
So
the
when they
Depp
say she got the
Waldman
role
statements
for
kept her from
Aquaman
being
because of
considered
Johnny,
for roles that
I
she
tend to agree
otherwise
because nobody
would
even
have
knew who
been
the fuck she was. And
considered
Johnny's
for,
got
correct?
influence.
That's correct. I'm not testifying on causation issues.
And you can't speak to what opportunities may never have materialized for Amber as a result of the Depp Waldman statements, correct?
Yeah, I've not done those calculations.
And you don't have an opinion about whether or not Ms. Heard could have renegotiated a contract for Aquaman 2, correct?
That was not part of my work.
And you don't have an opinion.
Their
on
whole
the
argument now,
impact that
I
additional
feel like they feel like
exposure
they've.
or press coverage.
It's
or
almost like they
magazine
feel like
covers or
they've
interviews
won
would
the
have had on Ms. Heard's
defamation,
career,
and now
correct?
they're working on
Correct. I'm just
ensuring
looking
that
at
she
Ms.
can
Arnold's
win her
calculations.
$100 million.
You've never
countersuit
served as an expert witness before
by
to
saying she
calculate
definitely should have
damages
earned
based
this
on lost
$100
roles
million
by an actress
in
resulting
pain,
from
suffering, and
defamation
loss
against
of
that person,
wages.
correct?
I've been involved in defamation cases, but I've not done the calculations as an expert witness and testified there too.
And there's never been an instance in which you have served as an expert witness in a case to calculate damages based on alleged defamation against an actress, correct?
Correct.
And you're not offering any expert opinion on what impact the alleged defamation by Mr. Depp has had on Ms. Heard's career, correct?
I'm sorry, one more time?
You're not offering any expert opinion on what impact the Depp Waldman statements by Mr. Depp has had.
Why do they keep asking him about about everything that happened after the statements? He's already made the statement saying that he was there specifically to analyze her earnings and her
coverage of this case
abilities
may have had on
to
Ms. Heard's
earn
career,
in
correct?
between
Correct.
the time
That's
that
other experts.
Aquaman
Can we approach
No
her?
further
filmed
questions.
and
Thank you.
All right.
yeah, they're very leading. But he's there to testify on, in his opinion, his ability, his expert field in his field of
Okay.
expertise.
Thank you, Ms. Finley.
The
Do you
amount
have a
that
seat in the
she
courtroom,
could
or
have
you
been
are free to go. Thank you.
throughout
All right, your next witness.
the end of filming for Aquaman and
Plaintiff cross Doug Banya,
up
Your
to the
Honor.
point
Okay.
of
Can you spell
Waldman's
last name for me?
statements.
B-A-N-I-A.
So everything that they just asked was a waste of time, because at no point in time did he's even said he's there to testify about her possible earnings and her earnings leading up to Aquaman and then going through from Aquaman to the Waldman statements. So everything they just asked about, well, post Waldman, he's like, oh, fucking no, I wasn't asked to review that information. All right, who we got here? Who we got? Who's this guy?
So just a reminder that you're still under oath, okay, sir?
Okay, so he's a prior witness as well. All right, cool. I missed a lot of the first half of all this.
Good afternoon, Mr. Banya.
Good afternoon.
Can you briefly reintroduce yourself to the jury, please?
Yes, hi, Doug Banya. I am from Nevium Intellectual Property Consultants based in San Diego. I value intellectual property. I provide litigation support in infringement and defamation cases, as I'm doing today. And I use internet and social media analytics and both of those services.
Oh.
Since you last testified in this case, the jury has heard testimony from Ronald Schnell and Catherine Arnold.
It's exactly what they're doing, Sarah.
Yes.
They're trying to make
Were
her
you
a
asked
main
to
character in the
analyze their
movie.
testimony and provide opinions in response?
Yes, I was.
Have you formed opinions in response to the testimony of Mr. Schnell and Ms. Arnold?
I have.
Generally, what are those opinions?
Generally, Mr. Schnell provided no evidence of a correlation between the Waldman statements and the hashtags and the spikes of those hashtags on Twitter. Second, based on my internet and social media analytics investigation, I've concluded that the alleged comparable actors that Ms. Arnold came up with are not comparable with Ms. Heard. And then thirdly, Mr. Schnell and Ms. Arnold both failed to provide any evidence of a causation as it relates to the Waldman statements causing any economic harm to Ms. Heard.
Let's dig into those opinions a little bit. You're familiar with the testimony of Mr. Schnell that there are more than 2.7 million alleged negative tweets related to Ms. Heard between January 2018 and June 2021?
Yes.
And what's your understanding of how Mr. Schnell identified those particular 2.7 million tweets?
Yeah, so essentially Mr. Schnell chose hashtags that he felt were negative towards Ms. Heard. Those hashtags range from justice for Johnny Depp, Amber Heard is an abuser, Amber Turd, and the hashtag we just don't like you, Amber.
There it is again, Amber Turd.
And he searched through using the Twitter API.
That's 3 days of court that have
tweets,
got
and then
on
came
record
up with
Amber
any,
Turd
tweets that were using those hashtags.
Did you conduct an analysis of those tweets?
Yes, I was given that exact the data that Mr. Schnell used on a hard drive. So yes, I dug into that data as well.
And what was the purpose of your analysis?
So what I'm trying to do, and what's at issue of the case today at this point is, were these tweets, did they contain the Waldman statements? That's what where we're at right now, are the Waldman statements. So I wanted to analyze those tweets to determine which ones, and if any, contain the Waldman statements.
And what's your understanding of what the Waldman statements are?
So my understanding is there's three Waldman statements that were published in the Daily Mail. The Daily Mail is a UK tabloid, and Mr. Arnold was quoted in three of those articles. And those dates were on April 8th, 2020, April 27th, 2020, and on June 24th, 2020. And my understanding that those quotes, sorry, I think I said the wrong name, but those quotes are the only remaining in this case.
Did you analyze the timing of the tweets that we were talking about as compared to the timing of the Waldman statements?
And that's exactly what I did. So I wanted to look at the Waldman statements, look at the dates that they happened, and then analyze those as compared to the Twitter data that I had.
Have you prepared a demonstrative that reflects that aspect of your analysis?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Oh my God, we're doing another approach?
It's your counsel.
Look at that guy's like, do you need me? Shit.
Go, 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 go.
I think they usually break for lunch. It's usually around between 12:30 and 1. They'll break after this witness. Can I also say I love how fast Depp's attorneys are working through their witnesses. They're not wasting any time. They're not allowing anybody to ramble. It's perfect. Just
all right.
Just a new witness.
1293 will just be marked for identification as demonstrative.
So this guy's whole job was check to see
and can be published to the jury.
How often Waldman's statements were used underneath these hashtags.
Mr. Banya, can you explain to the jury what this demonstrative shows?
To Amber Heard's being defamed.
So this shows
because of Waldman's statements.
The total hashtags and tweets that Mr. Schnell was analyzing. This is the summary data that their tweets that are running from January 2018 to June of 2021. And again, these are related to the four hashtags that I discussed. Whenever I get an assignment such as this, when I'm dealing with a defamatory statement that's allegedly gone viral online, where there's economic damages involved and there's a lot of data involved, I like to take the data and I like to do a 30,000-foot view of the data to see what I'm looking at, to see if there's anything interesting, odd, different about the data. And the first thing that I noticed is 35% of the tweets were prior to the Waldman statements. So again, remember, my assignment is to determine if the Waldman statements are part of the tweets that Mr. Schnell analyzed. So obviously, if these tweets were prior to the Waldman statements, in no way could they have anything to do with the Waldman statements. So that was the first issue that I noticed. Then I noticed what I like to call kind of the alleged defamatory time frame. And as I discussed, that's when the Waldman statements were published. That's the date down here. You know, the first one was in the beginning of April, and the last one, which is the third one, was at the end of June. But what I found interesting is only 2% of all of the tweets happened during this Waldman statement period. So really, these are just observations. And for me, there were red flags that I made note of. And then I just continued with my analysis.
What other work have you performed in connection with forming your opinions about the purportedly negative tweets?
Yeah, so now I realize that 35% are irrelevant and 2%, only happened during this important period. I just continue to dig into the 2.79 million tweets that Mr. Schnell
So what you're telling me is that people hated Amber Heard well before Waldman came out with his statements?
And Mr. Bonnie, have you prepared another demonstrative that depicts that analysis that you were just describing?
Yes.
Okay, yes.
May I approach, Your Honor? So the other thing, if you guys see a cameraman, a guy with a camera and a lens walking back and
I'll
forth,
give you time to look
taking
at it.
pictures, his name is Jim. So make sure you say hi to Jim. I got that from the DUI guy on Twitter. He said his name is Jim, and he seems to be a really nice guy.
All right, plaintiffs. Microphone, sorry.
No objection as a demonstrative.
Okay, all right. Plaintiffs Exhibit 1294 will be marked for identification as a demonstrative.
What's going on with Law and Crime's channel today?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Just so everybody knows, the reason why I choose Law and Crime to watch is because they usually have a split screen going to show everybody.
The
And I
various
prefer viewing it that
spikes,
way than just, back and forth.
as it relates to the hashtags that Mr. Schnell testified about. This is actually an exhibit or a demonstrative that he used in his testimony. What this is showing are the largest spikes related to the hashtag Justice for Johnny Depp. I don't know if you remember his testimony or any of his demonstratives. The other three hashtags did spike at the same time, but a very small spike. So what I'm showing you here are the 6 top spikes in Mr. Schnell's analysis. And what's important here again is the very first spike and the largest spike again happened before the Waldman statements. So what I'm trying to figure out is what tweets were related to the Waldman statements. So this number 1 spike, which is the biggest spike, was prior to the Waldman statements. So it's irrelevant to the case. And then the second thing I noticed that was interesting here is here are the dates in gray right here. This is the time in which the Waldman statements happened. And you're going to notice, as we discussed before, only 2% of the tweets happened during that time. But I found it very interesting.
This guy essentially said the 6 largest spikes of these hashtags had nothing to do with Waldman and therefore have...
There's no spikes in this area. And actually, you're going to see that Mr. Waldman, his statement came out here in the first April 2020 article. Then the second one came out here, and then the third one came out in June. There's actually a downward use
of the spike, downward use of the hashtags. So I'm not seeing any correlation as it relates to the Waldman statements and any spikes here as it relates to the hashtags Mr. Schnell chose.
Oof.
Did you analyze each of the spikes that are depicted here?
Yeah, so what I did is I looked at the 6 different spikes, and you're going to notice that each spike represents a month. So the second spike, is July 2020, and so on to the 6th spike going to April 2021.
Essentially, he's saying Amber Heard's just being a crybaby and trying to throw blame onto somebody else
when I went into Google search, and I'm able to go into Google search. I went in and I typed in Amber Heard. And then after you hit search, you can use the tool and you can go back in time. And I chose each 6 of these
because using actual facts and proof
to see what
doesn't
was
fit
the
the
media
Amber Heard
talking
narrative
about back then. What was the general public being fed as it relates to Amber Heard back during those spikes? And what I found is none of them. Well, actually, I analyzed the top 3 search results because they represent 50 to 70%.
I would agree with that, except for this isn't a pie chart. This is a graph.
And I realized that none of them had anything to do with the Waldman statements.
Are you aware of Mr. Schnell's testimony that the tweets using the 4 hashtags he looked at were mathematically correlated?
Yes.
What does that mean?
So what Mr. Schnell is saying, which is irrelevant to this case, is the 4 hashtags that he randomly chose, they tend to go up and down together. And that's why he had these spikes here. So the correlation there is how those 4 hashtags work or dance together going up and down. But first of all, the hashtags have nothing to do with the Waldman statements. And the fact that there's a correlation with the hashtags is irrelevant to this case because we're dealing with the Waldman statements, which none of that correlation analysis he did had to do with.
The hell you say?
How do you
I like
know
that your clown horn went off at the exact right time.
Statements?
Can I clear this at all? No. Oh, yeah. Well, first of all, I know because
he should be saying that they're irrelevant.
Would happen right here. If when Mr. Waldman, one of his quotes was published, you would see a big spike right here. And then you would see maybe a little noise down here. And then the third time you might see second time a big spike, and the third time a big spike. That's not here. So that's telling me there's no correlation between the Waldman statements and this hashtag use. And then I've actually provided evidence that there's no correlation because I analyzed each of these spikes and none of them had to do with the Waldman statements.
Is mathematical correlation the same as causation?
No.
Why not?
I mean, correlation is simply a relationship between.
She was also an established actress before she got that role, though.
In this case, the correlation question is: did when the Waldman statements were published at the same time, did you see a correlation with spikes in these hashtags? And again, can we clear this?
I agree, Nick.
You see none of that right here. It's actually a downward trend. There's no spikes. There's no correlation. So, again, Mr. Schnell provided no evidence of any correlation.
What correlation opinion?
I would say if you're gonna compare her to somebody else that was in a superhero movie, you can do Wanda's brother Petrov, the guy that played
hashtags have
him.
nothing to do
He
with
was
the
not
Waldman
an established
statements,
actor,
and the facts that
and he
they're
was killed off.
correlating or moving together is irrelevant to the case because the case is about the Waldman statements.
So what is causation then?
So causation is where one thing causes a change in the other. So as it relates to this case, did the Waldman statements cause Ms. Heard to have economic harm? In other words, did the Waldman statements cause Ms. Heard not to make as much money in her career? And again, Mr. Schnell provided no evidence of this. Ms. Arnold provided no evidence of this. And as a matter of fact, during Ms. Arnold.
Because that's just Warner Brothers. That's not the rest of the roles that she's saying that she could have been offered by
She was
other
asked,
people
the difference between
and other
causation and
lucrative
correlation,
deals.
and she said that she's not a
for,
semantics expert.
like she had
We're not talking about
L'Oreal
the
and stuff like
words.
that, endorsements.
When
She's
it
saying
comes
that
to damages, you have to prove
Waldman's
causation
statements destroy
prior
her
to
chances of
calculating
getting
damages.
future work.
So there is no
elsewhere
causation
and
that's
future
proven
endorsements.
here. Therefore, a damages analysis is not appropriate.
Did you hear Mr. Schnell testify that he agreed with your opinion in this case?
Yes.
And what's your understanding of the opinion that he agreed with?
Well, he agreed that he failed to link the spikes in the hashtags on Twitter to the Waldman statements.
Did he try to do that?
He tried to do that.
He tried to do that, and he failed.
His analysis was looking at the word Waldman and looking at the word Waldmanian, and then trying to say that 25% of the tweets included those two terms. But first of all,
I think it'll probably take a couple of days,
isn't the issue.
at least a day.
The Waldman statements.
Half a
and
day.
Waldmanian,
I'd say a
I don't
minimum
know
of
what
8
that
hours.
is, but it's not relevant to this case.
We can, I think, take that one down, please, Tom. Mr. Banya, what other work?
For those
has
of you
been in
watching on
connection with
Twitch, that's
forming
the
your
question I was
opinions
just
about Mr.
responding to.
Schnell's testimony?
Again, the assignment was to determine if the Waldman statements were part of the tweet. So I continued to dig in, to the data. I believe the next step is, now that I've excluded, the 35% that was before the Waldman statements because they're irrelevant, I wanted to really analyze from the April 2020 forward to see if any of those tweets, were.
This guy definitely knows what he is
Did you
doing.
prepare
This is the
demonstrative
difference
reflection
between
analysis that you
a
did?
Depp witness
Yes, I did.
and a Amber
Yeah,
Heard
Rich.
witness.
All right, yes, ma'am.
True professionals and experts in their fields versus some whack job psychiatrist who says he's an expert witness,
Any objections?
but obviously
No
is
objection
just a
has been
lunatic.
All right, we'll mark it for identification as plaintiffs 1295 as demonstrative and published to the jury.
So, Mr. Banya, did you consider the content of the statements made by Waldman as part of the work that you did?
Yes. Yeah, so here I reviewed the Waldman statements again. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to determine.
Can I just say how
what,
much I love
if
that
any
hashtag
tweets
Amber Turd is up
included the
on the
Waldman
main
statements.
screen
So what I
for
went,
this court
went back to
proceeding?
the Waldman statements, and I
love
came
it.
up with key terms and key themes for those Waldman statements, which are listed here.
Maybe Elaine's in the bathroom.
The Waldman statements were about abuse hoax,
Climbing
sexual
out the window.
violence hoax,
Running
and
away.
fake sexual violence. So what I did is we're now dealing with a 1.2 million tweets because we're starting in April 2020 because that's when the Waldman statements started. And what I did is I searched the 1.2 million tweets, for these three phrases. And I determined that there were 751 tweets that included those key terms, which is 0.06% of the 1.2 million. And then as I was sifting and sorting and analyzing this data, I realized that a lot of these tweets had the exact same language. It was interesting to see it was the exact same tweet because I'm analyzing the language to see if it matches one of these three. I realized that a lot of these tweets were retweets. Like
They have 5 tweets that he found
so
that use the
therefore I
Waldman
eliminated,
statements. 5.
Any of those, and it came down with 95 unique tweets. And then what I did from there is I analyzed those to determine if any of these terms were in there, and I identified 5 tweets that were related to the Waldman statements.
Do any of the hashtags Mr. Schnell analyzed include the words from the Waldman statements?
No, they don't. And, because I am rebutting Miss Arnold, her testimony yesterday, she was saying that the Waldman statements caused these hashtags.
More
Then
defamation
throughout her
towards
testimony,
Miss Waldman.
She walked that back and admitted, No, none of these tweets have anything to do with the Waldman statements. They don't include the Waldman statements. You know, these hashtags are only hashtags that Schnell, in his opinion, felt that they were negative towards Ms. Heard.
Based on your expertise, what are your overall opinions about Mr. Schnell's testimony and the Twitter hashtag data?
You know, Mr. Schnell provided no evidence that
or the types of witnesses you need to be calling, not friends that are no longer friends, not expert witnesses
Mr.
that
Schnell, there's
are
no
not true
correlation
experts.
He also
have any
provided no
statistical
evidence that there's any causation that, you know, the Waldman statements caused any economic harm towards Ms. Heard.
Your Honor, I'm about to switch to a different topic. I don't know if you want to break now or push.
All right, it's going to be a little while, I assume?
A little bit more, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and break for lunch, ladies and gentlemen, okay? Do not discuss the case and do not do any outside research, okay?
Ooh, I'm not gonna lie to you, man. Like, I'm a fan. How many lawyers has she went through? You mean today? She's had 2 different lawyers speak today. Kate Moss is supposed to be on tomorrow. Okay, bye, baby. I'm not gonna lie, dude. I am a statistics and data type person. I fucking get excited when I see graphs and percentages and numbers. I'm all about this guy's testimony, and he is just saying there is no relevance to the Waldman statements to show. There is no statistical data to show, and you can't argue with statistics and facts. There's nothing to show that anything that Waldman said has been detrimental towards her fucking career whatsoever. I am all about these 3 witnesses. What, this is the 4th witness this morning? Yeah, these 4 witnesses that they've brought out just this morning have literally destroyed the majority of witnesses that have been experts to come testify on behalf of Amber Heard. It is, yes, I am streaming again after lunch. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see him come back. And if this is how strong they're coming out the gate this morning, I am excited for the rest of the day. This is like leading up to this week has been the regular hockey season for anybody that's a hockey fan or a sports fan in general, but specifically hockey, because anybody that has never watched hockey, if you talk to somebody that's into hockey, they're always going to tell you, if you want to get into hockey, wait until playoffs. Watch the playoffs, because the playoffs is the most exciting time. We are currently in playoff hockey right now. This week is playoff hockey for this trial. These guys are nailing it this morning. They have brought out the big guns to kick back. Not a problem. I will, let's see here. They're going to be back in an hour. So we'll be back here at, 1:35. Is when I'll kick it off. I think I have it set for 1:30, so I'll probably just pop on at 1:30 and we can all, just kind of bullshit for, 10, 15 minutes, whatever, until it starts back up. But we're getting into the meat and potatoes now, where all of the prosecution's witnesses that are coming in, I guarantee every single one of them are going to come in and rebut everything that's been said by Amber Heard's witnesses up to this point. They are literally going to come in and destroy every single one of their testimonials. Next week is, I think Friday is closing arguments. I believe Friday is closing arguments. And then next week if the jury has it, next week we should get our result. But this is the last week of evidence. This is the last week of of evidence. All of the attorneys, both sides of the teams, this is the last week that they have. Amber Heard's team probably is sitting on about 2.5 hours, 3 hours left. Johnny Depp's team is probably sitting around 12 hours. Yeah, they've got deliberation because the next week. What's going to be interesting is how hard is it going to be for the jurors to stay away from any of the information while they're released over the Memorial Day weekend. So if they do not come up with a decision before the end of the day Friday, they're gonna have to let it go through the rest of the weekend. So we'll see what happens. You guys go ahead, go grab yourselves some lunch, get something to eat, relax, watch something funny. I will be back here with you guys at about 1:30, and we'll continue jamming this out. So yeah, I will see you guys then. Thank you so much for hanging out this morning, and God, I'm excited for this afternoon. Woo! See you guys in about an hour.